do that for Prabhupada.
Yeah, until the end of Kali Yuga.
That's right.
Until I
Step
get
on my
beheaded by
head,
Kalki.
Srila Prabhupada.
There you go.
So
I've never met Kalki.
Ramachandra,
I've never met Kalki.
Yes, yes.
I was thinking about the logistics for the farm,
Yes.
and we're gonna need a lot of stuff that we won't be able to grow there, at least not right away. Like it'll take, a couple of seasons to get a produce going.
Right.
So I was thinking that in the meantime, we could trade for like peanuts and mung dal and things, rice and basmati rice and things like that. We could trade with other people with the cow milk.
Yeah, why not?
And the ghee and the butter.
Yeah, barter system, right?
Do you think that's a good idea?
That's an interim program.
Yes,
because
interim.
in the end, the Varnashram project should be self-sufficient, and we could give away ghee and milk, but we shouldn't sell it because that would.
Yeah, we can trade.
No, not sell it, but trade it. Trade it for other things that we need.
I think that's not to begin with. Yes.
To begin with, yeah. To begin with.
Well, we have to understand there's going to be huge. What I'm worried about is not creating another Gita Nagari or New Vrindavan. Contradiction.
Right.
So we have to take into account that in the beginning we can do anything, with the understanding that the minute that we don't have to, we no longer do that. We don't look at the cow as a source of income, but rather as a source.
Everybody, look at your WhatsApp. I put a picture up of my deities with the new offering that I made them.
Wow, the halava.
That was yesterday. This is today. Today I made peanuts that are spicy, crispy ghee fried peanuts.
Wow, amazing.
Wow.
So if you go on your WhatsApp, there's a picture of it. I put it right there.
Oh, I'm looking at it now.
You got it?
There you go. Yeah.
There you go. So that's the offering for the night.
That's wonderful.
God.
Jai Radhe Shyam.
I wish you guys were over here because I have prasadam that I've been making.
Well,
Haribol.
we are over there, but we're not able to reach out and take the prasadam. We can only associate with the cook.
We can see it. Yes.
Exactly. But yeah, I've been spontaneously cooking things and they've been turning out pretty darn good.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Because of who is guiding you from within?
Krishna.
Paramatma.
And I've been chanting 16 rounds a day without fail.
Yeah, try.
Amazing. So you're feeling inspired. That's great. Keep up the good work, Prabhu. And
thank you, Prabhu.
And you'll be more. Krishna will give you unlimited inspiration and insight on how to do things properly. And
yes, that's what I want. Because I'm just a woman. I'm not that intelligent. Like I need superior intellect to help me do the projects that I want to do.
Krishna's there in the heart.
But don't forget, there is a very superior male intellect that will guide you always, called Paramatma.
Jai. Right.
Exactly.
Haribol.
Haribol.
So.
But at the same time, it's wise to work within the context of your physical body, even though you may be superior to your physical body. Still, out of etiquette, you say, "Oh, I am a woman," but you're not. You're spirit soul.
Yeah, but I am actually a little bit challenged speaking out about subjects like in an erudite form. Like I don't have that ability anymore. I used to be able to be really good at that, and now
you're doing it right now, kid. You're doing it right now.
Actually, the woman can speak the mind. I mean, men has to be calculated while speaking, isn't it? Sir?
Fantastic.
I would love to be an erudite speaker. I would love to just speak and have all kinds of things come out that
Yeah.
artistic and
ISKCON
beautiful
has
and
produced-
inspiring.
ISKCON produced many erudite women speakers.
Yeah.
Yamuna was erudite. She was incredible. Because Paramatma is the source of the language that a person speaks. Either they're speaking according to their body, but if they're speaking as a disciple of Prabhupada, then they are speaking transcendentally regardless of gender.
Oh, by the way, Narayan, guess what?
What?
Me, Ramachandra, and Ron all had a three-way conversation today.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and Ron is set to go on handling the legalese, for this project, and also
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah.
and also obtaining donors. And Ramachandra has a
Bye.
nest. Ramachandra, hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ramachandra has a nest egg that he wants to contribute. And so me and Ron will talk to Ron's contacts. Would you like to donate to this cow farm and get a tax write-off in exchange for your donation?
Yeah. So the main thing is develop the contacts and get people interested, and then let's produce enough. I will help produce enough literature so that when the people donate, they know what they're donating to and what the outcome is going to be.
Yes. That's what we wanted to have a discussion about. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed that. What was that last two lines, Narayan?
But I think we can do that within the context. If this all takes 6 months, well, within that 6 months, hopefully we'll have all the ducks in a row.
Right. Yes.
In terms of concept, you see, Prabhupada created a concept of Krishna consciousness. People took initiation, swore allegiance to that concept, but when they found it hard to follow, they changed it. So we're going back, League of 10K is going back to two things. Jiva, the eternal part and parcel of Krishna, infinitesimal part, and second thing is Srila Prabhupada.
Okay, we have
If
a
the
ghost
Jiva
follows
Srila
back.
Prabhupada, then we end up with perfection instantly, not after 50 years.
Hare Krishna, Amiya Ghosh Prabhu.
Jai,
Nice to see you again. Hare
Nice to
Bol.
see you back. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
I knew you were going to be back. Hare Bol. Just give you some time.
I was praying that he would be back.
Try.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Haribol. I put a
But
picture of the.
I doubt that my prayers had much effect, but you guys' well wishes, they did have effect.
No, your prayers always have effect, Narayan. And you guys, I put on WhatsApp League for 10K. I put a picture of the offering. You can see the spiced peanuts dish if you want to check it out.
Yeah, I see it. Yes.
Right. Now, Prabhus, I'm going to be cut. I'm going to
He's cutting out. He's going to be cutting out because he's entering.
He's entering Goloka.
Yeah, he's entering
Uh-huh.
the car. Okay, so he'll be back on in a few minutes. And let me mute him because it doesn't sound so nice and it's coming weird.
Tell him to disconnect and reconnect.
Yeah, I just muted him. So
But I'll be back on in a
all right.
Ramachandra, do you eat
5
prasadam the
minutes.
day after?
If there's leftovers, yes.
Okay, good. I do too, even though it's not pukka.
Yeah.
So, Ramachandra Prabhu, hello.
Yes. Yes.
Leftover can be given to cows, right? Cows and dogs, if possible. Is that
Prasadam?
allowed?
Yeah. Why not?
Prasadam, yeah.
Can be given to anyone. Yes.
Yeah.
Ramachandra, on our farm, do you think we should have like goats and pigs and
What? No. I don't think so. Probably.
okay, just cows, just cows.
Just cows, I think. Cows and grains.
What about a cat to kill vermin?
Well,
Is it a zoo?
cat and dogs are needed because where we are, where we're going to be, there might be bears, there might be foxes, there will be all kinds of living entities. So, dogs.
Okay, so cat and dog,
Yeah, yeah,
like a big dog, a fighting dog.
yeah. Well, obviously, you have to have dogs when there's bears and big.
Prabhu, hello. Yeah, please go
Hare
ahead.
Krishna,
And I'll ask my
Mahaprabhu.
question.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol Mahaprabhu Das.
All right.
Hari
Good
Hari
night.
Hari Bol. Jai
Uh,
Ho, Prabhupada. Oh, Mark Prabhu is in the house. Oh, yeah.
no, I'm in the car. I have a long drive home,
Great,
but I'll be
great.
I'll be listening in. Good to
Okay.
see you all.
Right.
Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Hare
All
Krishna,
right.
Mahaprabhu.
Thank you, Rupa. Rupa Manjari. Hari Hari.
Okay, Amir Ghosh Prabhu. Haribol Prabhu. What's going on?
Who's that?
You're muted.
Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
How are you all?
Good,
Prabhu?
Prabhu. Good, good.
Kripa. All Krishna's Kripa going on.
Kiyami. Who am I?
I'm Brahmas.
You don't need to find books for it. Who am I, Prabhuji? Am I,
Spiritual.
Prabhu?
Okay.
We all spirit souls.
Jai. So,
Of course, yeah.
Rupa Manjari Prabhu, have you been looking? What else have you been studying? We have to work on the flyer. We have to come up with the website, the Facebook things. We need to get things going, right?
Next, tomorrow I will work on a flyer.
Okay, and then the receipt books. Remember we talked about receipt books?
Yeah, I have to order them.
Yeah. So let's work on that, and then whatever else needs to be done. I have to look at the cows, right? Find out from the devotee in San Jose about the cows.
Are you,
Yeah.
Ramachandra, are you starting a farm?
Yes, yes, we're working towards that. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
can you engage me in
teaching
your
center.
service? Farm
Yeah.
service.
Yeah, why not? Everyone can be engaged. What do you want to do?
I want to play with the cows.
Me too.
For that, you'll have to come here, and we'll have room for you here. We just have to come here.
Yeah, the thing is, Ramachandra, the one house is a good start, but we need at least 3 or 4 other structures that devotees can live in.
Yeah, that's fine, but we don't need to buy anything. People, we can have.
No, I can live with the cows.
Nahi, official caretaker of cows.
you
You
know,
can give that position to him.
Who's that Prabhu that I just saw in here?
Which one? Amir
Not
Ghosh.
you, not you.
Amir Ghosh. He's in Calcutta, right, Prabhu?
Yes, Bengal.
Haribo.
Okay,
Yeah,
Amir Ghosh.
Maya-
Amir Ghosh.
Maya
Amir Ghosh,
Prabhu.
you want to live in the Goshala?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So first things first, we build a Goshala. And
Right.
because the winters are cold, we need to make it so that it insulates the cows.
Yes.
Winter, summer, rainy season, anytime. I can live with the cows.
See, the thing with America is they have something called mobile homes and trailer homes or whatever. I think you don't really need to build that. Ideally, if it's going to cost so much money to build, devotees can get one of those if need be. Like what would you call it? A fifth wheel or something?
A what?
A fifth wheel, meaning the big mobile cars on wheel, houses on wheels. What do you call them?
A mobile home.
Yeah, mobile home. I mean, it's if need be. I'm just saying these are options.
Maya Prabhu, how far is your place from Mayapur?
Are you asking me?
2 hours, huh? Okay. Yes.
2 or
2
3 hours. Yes.
Arey, Haribol, great. Drive every day for the Mangala Arti.
No.
Every day. Haribol.
Oh, these peanuts turned out really, really good.
All right. Okay, so
How many cows will be there at the first time?
Five.
yeah, about 5, approximately 5.
Two cows, 2 bulls, and one. Excuse me. 2 cows, 2 oxen for plowing, and 1 bull for inseminating the cows.
Why 2
And
oxen?
profit shouldn't be the motive. We should be focusing on doing it the right way.
Yes.
Haribol, can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
Okay, I might mention that the fellow who does the cow project, Make Vrindavan, he revealed that housing, and this is something I hadn't considered. I thought everyone will have their own little cottage or something. But for this project, you can make lodges the way the Native Americans did. Apparently on the Varnashram communities in India, the houses, they have sort of communal houses. The women and the children are there together, maybe 10 groups of men and children in one big lodge, which is a lot different than building individual houses. And we need to remember that the minute that the houses are owned by the people, it's a disaster. We have Saranagati. They can't even grow communal gardens, what to speak of cows, because everybody has their own property, and they can't do anything.
The cows own the property.
Right.
Exactly. In the Varnashram, the cows own the property. So all we need is a place to sleep and for women to nurse their children and stuff like that when it's not warm outside. So what do you think of creating a big long, like a Navajo longhouse or something of that sort, made from native materials, not aluminum or steel, but try to make it from, in the end, we can grow bamboo and make them out of bamboo the way the way they do in India,
Right. Yeah, why not?
We need to think about how they can take showers.
Yes.
Oh yes, that's interesting. I never gave much thought to that. Well, you can have bathhouses.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Like one for the boys, one for the girls.
Right.
Yeah, and the women and children could go into one, and the men could go into the other. When the boys get older, they go with the men.
Yes.
That's interesting. Yeah, because the minute you have every house with a plumbing system, you end up with a logistical, mechanical Kali Yuga nightmare. And I've been reading a bit on medieval plumbing and stuff like that. Generally, it turned into a nightmare. The plumbing and whatnot. But if you have a communal, and if the toilets are out of doors, they should be anyhow. You can't very well bathe in the same space where you use the toilet.
Right.
That's completely unacceptable.
Yes.
And India used to be like that also. So you can have the toilets like latrines, actual latrines, out of doors. I mean, I was raised on a farm where we had indoor plumbing, but it didn't ever work. So we used a latrine out of doors, a privy with a moon on the door.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. And it's a good way to get rid of your Sears Roebuck catalog, by the way.
Right.
Page by page. Just kidding. I mean, that's the truth. But I mean, in our case, kidding. Because in our case, you use a lota with water.
Right.
So much better. I mean, everybody's got these schemes for how to, all this in the pandemic, people are loading up on 2,000 years worth of toilet paper. Said, hey, go out, pay $25, get a lota and keep it by the toilet, fill it with water, wash your bottom when you're finished. And after that, you're fine. You don't need to do anything else.
Yeah. Paper is very unhygienic. It's not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, water is best.
But I would very strongly recommend not to get houses that are too individual in themselves, like even the motorhomes and stuff like that. I would say maybe temporarily for a year or something, but
Yeah, temporarily, you got to get things going. Yeah.
Temporarily, yes. Because we should create organic houses that look like the land,
Yeah.
with thatched roofs, with domes, in other words, go back in time to before everything was made by machines.
Narayan, the word you're looking for is outhouses.
Yeah.
My friend Jesus in Hawaii, he has them. You climb up a ladder, get inside the box where the toilet is. You go to the bathroom and do your lota, and then climb back down the stairs.
Well, why do you have stairs?
Just to keep them up out of the ground level.
I guess that's a good idea. I mean, what most people used to do is they would dig a pit, probably, like 5-6 feet deep, and about 3 feet by 3 feet or 4 feet by 4 feet. And the outhouse is just a little wooden structure. You drag it over and put it over the hole in the ground, use it till it's full, take the dirt, throw it back in. That could take years, actually. Because it settles and it decays. You take the dirt and you throw it back on, then you dig another hole and drag the outhouse to the new hole in the ground. It's actually very simple, and it's the way people operated well into the 20th century.
I also have a $5,000 water distiller that's used on Navy ships, and it creates gallons of first-class purified distilled water. We could put that into the kitchen and hook it up to the water source, and then have clean, super fresh, super pure water to drink.
You have a distiller?
Yeah, $5,000 water distiller.
Oh my God! How many gallons is that thing?
It says 5.5 gallons, but I think it's probably more like 2.
Okay, so yeah, a water distiller works by power, I think, right? How many volts?
Yeah.
But there's ways around that. If you have running water, you can actually run it through a multi-pure filter. It takes out everything that's bad.
Right.
And they're not. It just costs a few $100 for one of those.
I think the main house should have power. Like, we need that for internet, and we're going to need internet to broadcast what we're doing.
Well, I'm recommending that we have a library where anything internet, anything will be there.
Yeah.
As far as electricity is concerned, we can make electricity with a windmill. We could make it with paddles with the water if it has a big enough stream, or we can. There's different ways of creating electricity with very simple machinery that you can buy online nowadays.
Yeah. One thing we have to understand is that if it's done in California, everything has to be done properly because
building code.
Yes, that's something we have to consider, because if we don't, one wrong move.
Oh no! You're absolutely correct.
So we can't go. Everything has to be checked out and be legal. Otherwise,
they cannot tell you not to use an outhouse.
Yeah. So we have to take a look at all that legal.
No, of course. Before doing anything,
right,
have to look at the laws.
Yes.
I agree. I mean, in a post-apocalyptic situation, which we're probably rapidly approaching, if you believe all the panic mongers on the internet, in a post-apocalyptic situation, then in a post-apocalyptic situation, then you don't have to worry about obeying any laws,
right?
Except the laws of dharma and the laws of Krishna, But in a pre-apocalyptic situation, we have to follow the laws. But you'd be amazed at how many concessions are there for back to the land's people.
Yes.
It's not as though that we're the first people who want to go back to the land. The difference what we're doing is how we go back to the land, not that we go back to the land, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So we're going back to the land as Varnashram Dharma, Daiva Varnashram Dharma.
Exactly.
Somewhere down the line, we're going to have to deal with the fact that we're dealing with varnas, which means that people are going to freak out because they're going to say, what are you doing? Creating a caste system?
And we'll say,
But
yes, a transcendental caste system.
yeah. Well, the thing about the Indian caste system, because the British were there for so long, the British recreated the caste system for the Hindus. And people don't know that, but I've done some studying on that. They recreated the caste system for the Hindus by making it like British caste system. The British are very strict, have a much stricter caste system than the Vedic culture did. When I say caste system,
I have an issue here. Hello.
yeah, I mean they have a book called Burke's Book of Peerage, and in that book it describes exactly where everybody is in terms of their hierarchical role with other people of the nobility.
Mohit Prabhu, you have a question? Go ahead.
Prabhu, when you talk about Hinduism, I don't think Hinduism ever existed. These are Hinduism and all these religions are made by people, right? So
Well,
it was
Hindu
all
means
Sanatan
it's a
Dharma, perfect, always all over the world, right? So
well,
it was
Hindu
only
is a
one dharma.
it's an Afghanistani term, Muslim term. Hindu is created by the Muslims, the word. It means whoever is on the other side of the Indus River. And if you look at the geography of India, you'll see the other side of the, when you say other side of the Indus River, it means you're standing in Pakistan, in Afghanistan. I said Pakistan, I meant to say Afghanistan.
I want to discuss on this that it's always Sanatan Dharma been on this earth throughout the
Sanatana
universe, right?
Dharma is Krishna consciousness, and Hinduism is a religion. What we call Sanatana Dharma is
Hinduism is
Krishna
a religion
consciousness.
made by people, not by the god, right? He's not given those rules and regulations. That's what my
Hinduism
point is.
includes worship of all demigods.
Yeah.
So what we have here is the need to be able to divide according to Varna without suggesting. And the real key, the selling point for dividing according to Varna is very simple. The caste system that we will have, or the division of Varnas, is not going to be pejorative. Everyone in that community will be an initiated disciple of Srila Prabhupada.
Okay.
Right? So a Shudra, Prabhupada disciple. Brahmin, Prabhupada disciple. So what does that mean? It means that they're equal. So the Shudra and the Brahmin in the Daiva Varnashram are equal. They're not, there's no higher class, lower class. All there is a division of labor, not prestige. And you know what Hinduism has become, where the where you have to have this caste and that caste and outcasts and all sorts of stuff like that. No, we don't have that. Everyone will be equal because everyone will be a disciple of Prabhupada to be part of the community. So the Shudra, the Brahmin can offer obeisance to the Shudra. In fact, the Brahmin will offer obeisances to the Shudra because he says to the Shudra, Prabhu. So where in the Vedic culture does the Brahmin say Prabhu to the Shudra? You know,
in Varnashram Dharma.
Well, not in the old Varnashram Dharma. This Varnashram Dharma, Daiva Varnashram Dharma, starts with the Kanista Adhikari platform, which is above the entire Vedic culture of yesteryear that we read stories about. All those big Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, cows, all that stuff is less than Prabhupada's Daiva Varnashram Dharma. You understand that for real?
Right.
It's less. We think that we're doing a makeup of recreating some aspect of the Vedic culture. We're not. We are transcending the Vedic culture. Prabhupada, there's a direct quote from Prabhupada that the Brahmin, that everybody, he said like the Brahmin, everybody honors. He said, he is not yet a Kanistadakari. The Brahmin in the Vedic culture, where you have Brahmins are good guys, Kshatriyas, and then Vaishyas, and then Shudras are at the bottom and they're inferior. All of that, of course, in the Vedic culture, they weren't. This came of the British. But the whole point is that whole entire structure that we know as the Varnashram Dharma of yesteryear is not Daiva Varnashram. Daiva Varnashram indicates that we are all Kanista Adhikaris or more. And that is above the Brahmin. The Brahmins were not yet Kanista Adhikaris. Because to be a Brahmin, you have to say, Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. And the Brahmins didn't do that. They functioned according to the Vedas.
Ramachandra. Prabhu? Ramachandra Prabhu?
Yes.
On the actual farming aspect of it, we're going to take the oxen and till the soil. Then place one seed every, 2 feet or whatever. And start farming the produce.
Right. Yes. Right.
So how is one's varna decided here? Is it according to the service he picks?
Well, people are naturally inclined to certain things, so they should read Prabhupada's books and figure these things out. I mean, it's there in Prabhupada's book. Should be able to.
But the thing is about the Vaishyas. The Vaishyas will be in charge of the cows, in charge of the farming, in charge of breeding the cows to make a better breed by intermixing the bulls and the cows.
Well, this is the thing, Narayan.
But the Shudras will be doing the plowing and the milking.
Narayan. There's another cow project in San Jose, Silicon Valley, from a disciple of a guru up there, and he has really nice gear cows. And I'm like, where did those gear cows come from? Because I want some. Because gear cows are the top genetic breed of Desi cow.
Did you find out? Yeah.
That's what Ramachandra is going to do. He's going to find out all about that.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's really wonderful.
Yeah, I'll go to his farm one of these days and take some videos and have a conversation with him and try to get him involved in what we're doing and how he can help us and we can help him.
Yeah. But what we're doing, the way we're designing this is going to be head and shoulders above what anybody else is doing. Because this will be varna and ashrama, not simply devotees with cows.
Okay. Yes. So Bhanu Prabhu asked a question. Bhanu Prabhu, can you re-ask your question, Bhanu Prabhu?
Yes.
We need to come to a conclusion on this.
How is one's varna decided in this? Is it according to the service he picks in this project?
What?
How is one's varna decided in this project?
By aptitude. Now, stop to think of it. Prabhupada made that very clear. Not about Varnashram Dharma, but about human society. He said human society is already divided according to Varna. But because of the sense of democracy, etc., people all want to struggle. The working class man wants to become a business executive and stuff like that. But that's not required. The majority, if you look at the Varnashram society as a pyramid, and you look at human race as a pyramid, the working class composes the vast majority of the population, right? Is any disagreement there? People are naturally inclined to work. Now, for a Vaishya, he has to be naturally inclined to be an agronomist, to breed grains, to breed cows, to breed wheat, to breed cotton, to breed silkworms. He has to be the scientist that puts it all together and manages it. And he's the largest portion. He's a very large portion of the most important part of Varnashram. Kshatriyas, we hardly need them except to guard the borders. And Brahmins, we don't need a lot. But boy, are they going to be busy, because they're going to be cooking the ingredients for everybody to eat. In Varnashram, it's highly important. Prabhupada, Vishaka or someone brought up the question of, oh yes, the Vaishyas are businessmen. That's what people like to think. And Prabhupada said, no, cow protection. We do not want anything to do with nonsense business. So to make that happen, we have to say we don't need money. A Brahman a Vaishya is not going to accumulate wealth.
Right.
A Vaishya is not going to be a banker. Vaishya is not going to be a capitalist. Vaishya is not going to own anything. In this place, the ownership will be very, very clear and easy to see. Lord Jagannath in the temple will own all the buildings, all the cows, all the clothes everyone wears, all the water, all the soil. In other words, Lord Jagannath, believe it or not, will own everything. And we will all be servants within that structure, which will be guided by the Brahmins, and without money and with plenty of produce being produced by the Vaishyas, nobody needs to buy a sari or buy anything. You can make things yourself if you want to, but you don't need anything, because everything product is given to the Brahmins, and the Brahmins, being hopefully Brahmins, distribute according to need. Not according to favor, not according to capitalistic wealth, not according to bank account, but according to need. That's Ram Raja. And Karl Marx, when he came up with his rather haphazard notion of communism, actually modeled his idea of communism after Ram Raja, or the kingdom of Ram.
Bhanu Prabhu, is your answer getting you? Are you getting your answer or no?
Who said a natural ability or skill, aptitude?
Okay.
Who is looking for an answer?
Bhanu Prabhu was looking for that answer.
An answer to what?
How do you decide one's varna in the project?
I'm sorry, I'm giving what I hope to be key important distinctions for Varnashram Dharma, but if Bhanu has a question, I don't know what that question is. What is his question?
I thought you were answering the question all the way.
I've been answering it? Well, that's just luck.
I also thought Prabhu was answering the question very deeply.
Okay, so from this, are you getting the answer that you're looking for to the question?
You answer again. I'll put forward the question.
If you're not getting
how
the
do you
answer,
decide?
then
How do we decide?
again.
How do we decide what is one's varna? How do you categorize the people into varnas?
Actually, Bhanu Prabhu, here too much transcendental
yes.
voices are
that
there.
question was
So you need to record it first. Please record these transcendental recordings. Please.
Yeah. Srila Prabhupada discussed that with Rameshwar on the morning walk. He discussed that with Satsuru, Rameshwar, Chartirtha, I think, and a few others. And Prabhupada was saying, why are you giving so much Brahmin initiation? And Shatria, the fanatical Catholic, former Catholic, or once a Catholic, always a Catholic, when he said, well, but Prabhupada, you join the movement, you chant Hare Krishna, and you're recommended for initiation, and after 6 months, you become a Brahmin. You take Brahmin. Prabhupada said, well, what is the use to taking Brahmin if you're not going to be doing a Brahminical task?
Right. That's a very good point. If someone is not doing a Brahminical...
It's a very good point created by Srila Prabhupada.
Yes.
What's the use of initiating a man as a Brahmin if he's going to spend all of his time crawling around fixing an ox cart from underneath?
Right. Yeah. I mean, for him, that comes naturally, right?
So whoever likes working on machines, like John Ryan, for instance, whoever likes working machines, he doesn't need a sacred thread, he needs a wrench.
Right. Yes.
So can you once again more elaborate on how the varnas are decided? I mean, that's not on my varnas, how decided, and according to the karmas, right? What Krishna used to say that not
people have
what religion which we have made.
So, exactly, you're asking a brilliant question, a very excellent question, and vitally important question for our project, of course, because otherwise people won't know what the heck they're getting into. But how many people want to spend their entire day dressing deities and cooking offerings for the deity? You know? How many people want to do that as a matter of preference? And how many people like to work with their hands? So if you like to work with your hands, why artificially become a Brahmin doing something you don't particularly want to do?
Yes.
So the Brahmins are those persons, and they won't even be the same Brahmins. They'll have Brahmins address the deity, as in Jagannath Puri. I keep thinking that the ideal is to recreate the mood of Jagannath Puri. Because in Jagannath Puri, Lord Jagannath owned everything. Right?
Yes.
And everybody brought their product that they made on their farms or their rooms or everything to the Pandas, or the Brahmins at Jagannath Puri. Then, as needed, it was distributed. I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? Karl Marx's language was pretty succinct. From each according to his ability, meaning varna, to each according to his need, not varna. In other words, a Shudra can get just as nice clothes as a Vaishya. We're not here to lord it over others by saying, I am a Vaishya and I'm rich, so I'm going to wear best gold, the best jewels, best saris, best everything. Right? No, you wear what you need. If you're out in the country, you don't need very fancy clothes. But if you have a festival at the temple or a Shraddha ceremony, on a Prasana ceremony where the baby eats the first grains and all those types of things, when you're doing that, you can have nice saris. But does the Brahmin or the Kshatriya or the Vaishya require a better looking sari than the Shudra? Why shouldn't the Shudra women look gorgeous? Why is it going to be divided according to wealth, not according to need? So from each according to his ability, okay, everybody works in his varna, right? To each according to his need means a man with 10 children needs more clothes than a man with 2 children.
Right.
A man, a husband and wife with 10. You see, is that a simple thing?
Can you describe the activities which we do in the project and which can be categorized into 4 varnas?
Well, yeah, I should think that it's sort of transparent anyhow, right?
Here's the answer. Prabhupada, I just looked it up. Prabhupada describes it here.
Okay, what does he say?
Okay. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, PrabhupadaBooks.com.
Now, is this Daiva Varnashram or is this the Vedic Varnashram?
This is Prabhupada describing the duties and activities of the classes, the Brahmana, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and the Shudra.
But is that in the Vedic culture or is that his culture of Daiva Varnashram? Or we don't know?
Oh, well, let's see. This is Prabhupada. Prabhupada is giving in the Vedic context.
Okay, so whatever he says, let's listen.
Yeah.
But we have to take into account his intent beyond that was that everyone is equal in quality of being as a jiva.
Yes.
And after that, the division according to varna is according to your work.
Yes. So Prabhupada is saying here, and Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 29, verse 15, one has to execute his prescribed duties according to his social position as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. The prescribed duties of the four classes of men in human society are also described in the Bhagavad Gita. The activities of the Brahmanas are to control the senses and to become simple, clean, learned devotees. The Kshatriyas have the spirit of ruling, and they are not afraid on the battlefield, and they are charitable. The Vaishyas, or the mercantile class of men, trade in commodities, protect cows, and develop agricultural produce. The Shudras, or the labor class, serve the higher. The Shudras, or the labor classes, serve the higher classes because they.
Well, I would say we're all Shudras with the little bits of the other three classes.
That's why Prabhupada isn't following this. But listen to what Ramachandra is reading, because we can eliminate a few details from it and we'll have Daiva Varnashram.
Yes.
Haribol, Haribol, please repeat it once again. Please,
Okay.
Haribol, please.
Yes, the Shudras.
I've been waiting for this for last 1 hour. Please.
Okay. So I'll continue. The Shudras, or the labor classes, serve the higher classes because they themselves are not very intelligent. So
from the starting, please. Where the four types, right? From the starting.
Yeah, we just completed that. We'll again
Well, we have to consider that in Kali Yuga there are no Brahmins. There are people that are going to act as Brahmins, fulfilling the role of Brahmin, but it's not that the Shudra is not as intelligent as the Brahmin.
Yeah, Prabhupada,
he just does different work.
Yes, Prabhupada is saying that here, that from every position, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Sakarmanam tam apyacharani, one can serve the Supreme Lord by performing one's prescribed duties. It is not that only the Brahmanas can serve the Supreme Lord and not the Shudras. Anyone can serve the Supreme Lord by performing his prescribed duties under the direction of a spiritual master or representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada is going here now. One should not think that his prescribed duties are inferior. Did everyone hear that? One should not think that his prescribed duties are inferior. A Brahmana can serve the Lord by using his intelligence, and the Kshatriya can serve the Supreme Lord by his military arts, just as Arjuna served Krishna. Arjuna was a warrior. He had no time to study Vedanta or other highly intellectual books. The damsels in Vrindavan were girls born of Vaishya class, and they engaged in protecting cows and producing agriculture. Krishna's foster father, Nanda Maharaj, and his associates were all Vaishyas. They were not at all educated, but they could serve Krishna by loving him and by offering everything to him. Similarly, there are many instances in which... Yes.
This is perfect. This is absolutely perfect.
Yes. So we have to read...
the thing is, what we have to distinguish is we won't need kings.
Right.
With 10,000 people, you don't need a king.
So the role of Vaishyas is clear: agriculture and crop protection over here. That is there. Shudras
Yeah.
also, it is
But
pretty
that
much.
doesn't mean the Vaishya will do all the work. The Shudras will do the work under the guidance of the Vaishyas.
So I'm asking, what does the Kshatriya do?
Protect,
guards the-
protect it.
Fight, Prabhuji.
What is to stop barbarians on motorcycles, Harley Davidsons, and machine guns from coming up and wanting to slaughter the cows if we come to a point where there's a generally based famine in the country and there's not enough to eat? And because these people are not devotees, they don't know how to make any accommodation except by killing their dogs and eating them or something like that. So
Basically,
how do
you want to say this?
so here we have cows, beautiful women, cows, and a lovely society. Everyone is living nicely. What is to prevent those people from those guys on Harley Davidsons from coming in with their machine guns, killing everybody or threatening everybody, raping all the women and roasting the milk cows?
So will we be having arms?
How can you stop them? Well, I'm pointing out that's why you have Chatrias. You stop them with Chatrias. But Prabhupada in 1967 or 8 was in Boston, and he was talking with devotees. He said the time will come when you will ask someone to chant Hare Krishna, and they say no, and then you shoot them. Now, nobody could quite figure that out. Hans Duda, being from the Hitler's Third Reich family, he armed brahmacharis with Glock pistols.
But even now the Karmis, they say, if we say on the phone call Hare Krishna, they won't say Hare Krishna. They won't chant Hare Krishna in response to our Hare Krishna.
But let me give an example. I think you'll see clearly how this would apply. Supposing somebody comes on that motorcycle and wants to kill you and slaughter the cows and eat them, and then take it back to their families to eat them too. Supposing that person comes up there and said, "Get out of the way, we're going to go kill your cows." And they say, "Well, are you hungry?" And the guy says, "Are you kidding? I'm hungry. I haven't eaten in 4 days." Why not? There's nothing to eat. That's why I'm coming here to attack your cows, to get something to eat and to feed my people. And he said, "Well, before you kill us and kill our cows and all that, why not join us we're just about to have lunch. Why not join us for lunch?" And they said, "Oh, really?" "Yes." And they handed him a big opulent plate of prasad, vegetable prasadam cooked in ghee. And he said, "Wow, that looks wonderful." And so he sits down and he eats with all the Kshatriyas. And he says, "Well, now I suppose I could get about slaughtering your cows or something." And he said, "Well, we have another idea. Why don't you join our group, our community?" "What do you mean? I came here to kill you and you're inviting me to join you?" "Yes, why not? You know military arts. You could guard the gates of this community from people like you. You can keep people like you out of our community." He says, "Sure, I'd love to do that." He becomes so happy.
But then he would be having his friends, right? How would be he going against his friends in a fraction of time?
Okay, but wait a minute. We're not finished yet. Then what happens is he gets sad and he says, "I would love to do it. I like everything in this stuffed prasad, whatever you call it, is delicious, but I can't." They said, "Why not?" "Because I have a wife and 3 children, and I could leave them to starve, but I can't bring myself to do that. I want to feed them." He said, "That's not a problem. Bring them and they can join our community too. We'll provide them housing. We'll provide them education. We'll give them clothing. All they have to do is work according to their ability." whatever their ability happens to be.
Auntie Baji.
He said, "Are you kidding?" And so, yes, that's a happy ending to that story. Then another guy goes up on a horse with on a motorcycle with a machine gun. Says, "Get out of the way! I'm going to kill you all and murder your kill your cows and molest your women and steal everything you have." Why? Oh, because we're suffering greatly, and we need to pillage wherever we can go to be able to survive. I said, "Well, look, we're just about to have lunch. Would you like to join us for lunch? What do you got?" And you show them, so bring him an opulent plate of prasadam. He pokes at it with his fingers and says, "Where's the meat?" "Oh, we don't eat meat." "You don't eat meat?" "Well, I want meat. That's why I want to kill your cows. Why are you offering me this stuff here?" And so you talk, try to make him see sense, and he doesn't want to make sense. So then you say, "Okay, at least, will you chant Hare Krishna?" And
Right.
he says, "Hare Krishna, no." And he said, "Okay, you pull out your pistol and shoot him." I think that's what Prabhupada had in mind. That the time will come when we have to protect our ashram, our grihastha, protect our, essentially grihastha, our ashram communities. We have to protect it. And if they want to attack,
can you say again, Prabhu, at what point are we going to decide shoot him?
you shoot him when he refuses to take prasadam, is not interested in moving into the community with his family, simply wants to rape, pillage, and kill. And at that point, you say, "Well, will you even chant Hare Krishna?" "No." Then you shoot him. You see?
But won't we go behind the bars for doing that?
Well, go what?
Very good.
He came to destroy your culture, your family, your cows. He came to destroy everything. You give him a chance to become one of us, to join us.
Yeah.
The first guy joins us. This guy doesn't want anything to do with it.
Okay.
So what can you do? Chant Hare Krishna? No. Bang, you shoot him. That is what I think Prabhupada actually had in mind. Because it fits with the varnashram idea, from each according to his ability, to each according. Spiritual communism, you called it. That freaked out so many people because the devotees tend to be very anti-communist. And on top of it, Prabhupada was very anti-communist. And he says he's creating spiritual communism. So what? What are you talking about? How can you do that if you're against communism? But I think we can see that in that principle of communism, from each according to its ability, to each according to his need, that's spiritual. But anyhow, I'm getting carried away as usual. And can I then apologize to you for getting carried away and say, Banu, did that satisfy your question? Or you were trying to understand, how do you determine who's a Brahmin? Oh, who wants to stand in front of a deity all day long? He's going to be the Brahmin. Who wants to cook all day long? He'll be the Brahmin. And who will help the Brahmins? The Shudras. Who's going to wash the pots? The Shudras. So they get to live like Brahmins, except they're Shudras. They don't have to learn all the Brahminical stuff, which they don't want to learn. They're just happy being there and getting fed sumptuously day and night. So with a community like that, nobody will even really need a stove in their dwelling. They won't need a stove in their dwelling. Oh, you might have, pots to heat up milk for children to drink or something of that sort, but not meals. The meals, everyone goes to the temple, sits down. The temple should be big enough so hundreds of people can sit down.
So would all the activities a Kanishthadhikari does, Krishna conscious activities, various things like reading books, hearing lectures, and listening to kirtan, doing kirtan.
This is all Kanishthadhikari. The whole.
All these activities also be included?
What?
all the spiritual activities will be also included, right?
Included? Well, yes, all
Yep.
the members of the community will come for Mongol Artik. They come for noon Artik. They can come for evening Artik. They come for classes. And that doesn't exclude the Shudras. The Shudras also come and get the benefit. It's not just that the Shudra, oh no, you're not qualified, get out of here, you know? You're a Shudra, you're not allowed. It's not going to be like that. Everyone is included in the
Right.
community. Nobody's going to be an outcast, whatever that means in reality, which is, I would say, essentially nothing. So anyhow, do you have another deeper question, Banu, or is that okay for now?
It does answer many things. It's okay.
I have a
Huh?
I have a question. I have a question. Why are we meeting right now instead of tomorrow?
We're doing both.
Bhanu Prabhu suggested the idea of having more meetings. So Bhanu Prabhu,
okay.
I was available, so I thought, why not? So I called Narayan Prabhu. I'm like, oh, Narayan Prabhu, can we have a meeting? He said yes. So I said, sure, why not?
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So
That's funny because the chairman of the board asked me, whereas I should be asking the chairman of the board.
no, actually, it was Bhanu Prabhu's idea. So I'm just,
And we should all ask Banu.
Yes.
So Banu, we are honoring you
Yes.
by putting you in charge of this Istagosthi meeting.
Chai Bhanu Prabhu. Yeah. Hari Bol. Yes.
You see, this is the beauty of the Istagosthi, is we go beyond, technically go beyond Kanista Adhikari in the Istagosthi, because we're speaking as spirit soul, not as the body. When you speak as the body, Kanista Adhikari is automatically there. You look at people's bodies, you see what they're supposed to do in the temple, you see how they're supposed to act, and that's it. But on the Istagosthi, there is no division of labor. There's simply jiva. And that is the power of Istagosthi, and that's how we're going to get Krishna consciousness back to Prabhupada, because we will have only two factors. Prabhupada, instructor, setting the example, we follow the example, we don't deviate from what he taught us, said to us, we don't make up our own version of it, we don't make up our own kirtan melodies. Why would we? We have a spiritual master, and the spiritual master showed us what to do, how to chant. So why should we make anything up? Unless we want to depart from the spiritual master. If we want to depart from the spiritual master, then we are in deep trouble. You right? So anyhow, I'm ready to take a break on the talking side. I want to enter into the listening side.
Okay. All right. Bhanu Prabhu, you're the MC, so you take lead, Bhanu Prabhu.
You do it. You lead.
Okay, Rupa Manjari Prabhu, any questions?
Not at the moment.
All right. Okay.
Now, weren't you going to reading from the Bhagavad Gita?
Oh, yeah, we finished that. Or, yes,
That
Oh,
was
I
a
see.
separate session.
that was a separate session. Yeah, that was not Istagosthi. This is Istagosthi.
I see. What was the topic?
Bhanu Prabhu, what was the topic?
It was chapter 2, devotional service.
Chapter 12,
Bhagavad
verse?
Gita chapter 12. From 1 to 5 we went. 12.1 to 5.
Okay, so I'll read the Bhagavatam, then let me finish this verse that we were reading about the 3 classes. All right?
Sure, absolutely.
Right, okay. Because many of the points were read, and Narayan Prabhu mentioned that. So, all right. So, Krishna's foster father, Nanda Maharaj, and his associates were all Vaishyas. They were not at all educated, but they could serve Krishna by loving him and offering everything to him. Similarly, There are many instances in which Chandals or those lower than Shudras have served Krishna. Also, the sage Vidura was considered a Shudra because his mother happened to be a Shudra. There are no distinctions, for it is declared by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita that anyone engaged specifically in devotional service is elevated to the transcendental position without a doubt. Everyone's prescribed duty is glorious if it is performed in devotional service of the Lord without desire for profit. Such loving service must be performed without reason, without impediment, and spontaneously. Krishna is lovable. Huh?
So I have a question here. So
Okay.
also the sage Vidura was considered a Shudra because his mother happened to be a Shudra. I mean, why is it based on birth?
Why what?
Oh, Prabhupada is using an example here, and then he's going to glorify Vidura. He's saying that even though he was born in a seemingly Shudra family, but he was the most exalted devotee. So Prabhupada is making a point here. Or those lower than Shudras have served Krishna.
No, why is the caste based on birth? I'm saying.
What?
Why was Vidura's caste based on caste? Why was his Vidura's caste based on his birth?
Well, that was the rigid system of that time. And Prabhupada.
Well, remember, I tried to clarify. The British made it more rigid than it was at that time, because the British wanted to destroy the varnas, so that the Vedic culture couldn't function.
Britishers are the worst thing to happen to India. But Prabhu, I have a question in this.
But then this is Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada's purport, right? Then why is it being based on birth? I'm asking.
Krishna says it at several places that it should not be according to the birth, it should be according to your karmas, right? You are distinguished according to the karmas you've done.
According to your work or skill.
Oh, we could say karma, also dharma.
According to the karma, right? The karma which you do, according to that, you are in that.
The karma gives you the dharma. If I've done something, I become a Shudra, so I get my karma of becoming in a Shudra body then puts me to be a Shudra.
But bro, Shudra body is not classified by your birth, no. It's classified by your actions. And in some purpose, Prabhupada says that your previous karma will also decide where you would take birth. So there's a slight difference. Can you just explain that, please?
Clarify, make the simpler question.
Simple question is, when we are taking birth at a Shudra's place, we should not be called a Shudra. We should be called according to our karmas which we are doing, right? Which Krishna says, right?
If you're born as a Shudra, then that is your karma. But try to understand here, in Lord Chaitanya said there's no hard and fast rules for chanting. That means you don't have to be in a certain varna or ashrama to chant Hare Krishna. Anyone, a Malacha can chant. And take also into account that even in India, even any Brahmin that joins our movement, he's not really much of a Brahmin. He's the remnants of a Brahmin.
They are not real Brahmins, that I could get you. But the slight difference which I want to ask is...
Prabhu,
just said that it was according to your
who's speaking?
It was according to your aptitude that your caste decided. Aptitude means natural ability or skill.
So it's me, Mohit. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So the varna in this Kali Yuga, Prabhupada says, Suchi hoy, muchi hoy, Muchi hoy, suchi hoy.
Mhm.
It's the elevated Brahmin suchi can become muchi or untouchable, and the untouchable can become a Brahmin. This is what he did. This is what he did in America. He didn't do it because he had no choice. He did it because that was his purpose, to follow Lord Chaitanya's view that anyone could become a devotee of Krishna on the basis of varna, on the basis of intelligence, of aham brahmasmi. Prabhupada said even in that quote that once you have taken up the spiritual sense of identity, then your varna and ashrama no longer pertain the way they used to. We are creating a new qualification, which is people who chant Hare Krishna, right?
So Daivi Varnashram means according to your aptitude, the Varna is decided, right?
Well, yes, but we act according to certain propensities.
Yes.
You're not going to tell a dentist to start digging holes in the street with a shovel and pick, because his talent is that more refined. So we just look at a person, but people will essentially pick their own role. It's not that everyone says, oh, cow protection, I want to be a Vaishya. They don't. I mean, becoming a Vaishya is a lot of hard work.
Prabhu, so those certain propensities which you want
cow dung, you have to milk endless supplies of cows. There's so much you have to do as a Vaishya that nobody would want to do.
Yeah.
But those certain propensities come from the previous life, right?
To take a working class man and try to make him into a Brahmin on that morning walk, Prabhupada said, why? We don't need it because they are not acting as Brahmins. We shouldn't give them Brahmin initiation.
Yeah.
But Ramacharya and Satsrup rejected Prabhupada's view. Instead of exploring it, they rejected it. Now, this is the way we do it, and this is what we do. You can't, Prabhupada, you can't now change that. That's essentially what they said. Prabhupada, you can't change it. This is the way we do it. And my question is, if Prabhupada is a spiritual master, no one but he can change it.
It seems like there's a lot of...
But they only became religious people. Prabhupada, you created a religion, now you're going against your religion.
Point Prabhu wants to say is this, that you are conditioned to certain propensities from your previous karma's life, right? But you can change it by your intelligence in your next life, right? According to your aptitude and skills.
Or in this life.
Your varna can be changed, right?
A person could be a malacha dog eater, chanting Hare Krishna. He could go into a temple, follow the regular principles, and become a pujari, if that's his talent.
Yes, it's said right here. Similarly, there are many instances in which Chandalas or lower than the Shudras have served Krishna. So, it's not a restriction. Anyone can serve Krishna, and if a Vaishya is serving Krishna or Shudra is serving Krishna, they're on the absolute platform. Why are we seeing, in a material context, we're saying that I'm this and he's that. So that is where the problem comes in, when you're seeing it in a horizontal.
No, that is not the point of discussion whether Shudra can be a devotee of Krishna. That's not the subject we're discussing actually.
So
we're discussing why is Vidura considered a Shudra just because of his birth? That was the question actually.
I'm sorry?
Why was Vidura considered a Shudra in this verse? Because Prabhupada is saying, because his mother was a Shudra.
Shudrani.
Yes. So Bhanu Prabhu is asking, why is it being classified again according to his birth?
Because this is in a time when distinctions of birth counted.
Yeah, that's what I said.
If you come to America, distinctions of birth don't count.
Yeah.
But do you know anyone in India, if you took them back 5,000 years ago, that those who think they're Kshatriyas, those who think they're Brahmins, those who think they're Vaishyas would be accepted by the other Kshatriyas and
No.
Brahmins?
Yeah.
If you took the families, the best families in India,
Right.
back to 5,000 years, would they not be considered low class?
So can we say this like
They're only high class in relationship to people like us.
Yes.
so on the Vidura's point, which Prabhu wanted to ask, can we say this that Vidura was born in a Shudra family, but when he came to life, he can be transferred to any varna according to your karma and deeds, right? But his previous karma was of a Shudra, that's why he was born into a Shudra family.
Prabhu is saying that at that time the birth was considered.
Yeah, the caste system was, the birth system was there. Yes.
No,
Yes.
but caste system was not brought by Krishna. No, that is the point again. Caste system has been done by us, by Britishers, or to divide us, right? Everyone was into.
Well, we don't
Sanatana
use the
Dharma,
word.
right?
We don't use the term caste system.
Yeah.
We use the term varna
Varna
and
and ashram.
ashrama.
Yes.
So you want to say that? So you want to say this that Krishna at that moment exactly said that according to your birth you will be taken at that time. That according to your birth only you will be regarded as a specific varna,
No, I mean,
specific Shudra or something.
in Vidura's case,
Yeah.
he was a pure devotee.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, just like
He was a
Haridas
Brahmin,
Thakur,
right?
Yeah.
people would say Haridas Thakur is less than even the lowest Shudra.
Yeah.
But it turns out that Haridas Thakur was himself Lord Brahma,
Yeah.
who created all the bodies of the people that looked down on him.
Right. So I think that answers the question of the devotees, that at that time the varna and ashram system was very prominent. So this is why Prabhupada is giving in that purport that because of, he uses that context because he was born from a Shudrani mother.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Bol, Hare Krishna.
All right. Panu Prabhu, I think, is it clear, or do you need further?
Yeah.
Because at that
Clear.
time,
Yeah, got the answer.
Okay, thank you.
Just try to consider that all the people in India, Hindus, that are busy, careful who that their daughters marry, and all of these distinctions based on caste or varnas, but they're not really varnas. It's based on British interpretation of varnas, which they turned into castes.
Right.
They made it much more rigid. There's a lot more intermediate mingling between the varnas than the British would allow.
So caste is a negative view of varna system. Varna is just division of work. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah. Caste should not be used. The word is like inferior. These are
Yes,
built
varna
by
ashram is the right
God
word.
by us. Right.
Varna ashram.
The term caste was produced by the British,
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
and they did everything they could to destroy the varna ashrama system systematically and intentionally.
Divide and rule. Yeah, bro. That was divide and rule. Make them fight on the basis
Exactly.
of caste. And rule.
Okay, so let's welcome Shreya Prabhu. She has joined Zoom. So, Hare Krishna.
I'm so sorry. I joined too late, I guess.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Shreya Prabhu.
Hare
Is it
Krishna.
possible? Could I finish
Everyone's
up the
time
previous-
has been fixed by Krishna, so no tension, please.
Mr. Chairman of the
That's
board,
so true.
Yes.
I have a short thing that I could read that should sum up the British position with the varnas and ashramas.
Okay,
Is
go
that
ahead.
okay?
Yes.
And discuss or not, because I want to get onto Shreya, I want to get onto everything.
Yes.
But just as, and ties it up, there was a gentleman named Lord Macaulay. We're familiar.
Yes,
And
he was the
there's
voice
even
right.
it's a way of
Yes, right.
speaking English is called Macaulay-esque English. But here's what Lord Macaulay says, one short paragraph.
Yes.
And it said, Lord Macaulay's address to the British Parliament, 2nd of February, 1835. That's significant. It's a long time ago
1835.
in terms of the history of India. He writes, I've traveled across the length and the breadth of India, and I've not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such wealth I have seen in this country, such high moral values, people of such high caliber, that I do not think we will ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is her spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose that we replace her old and ancient education system, her culture, for if the Indians think that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation. So people can make up their idea of what the British were doing. There in 1835 is a clear battle plan by Lord Macaulay, what they were doing. So everything we experience in India, anything a person experiences from their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, great-great-great-great-parents is coming from Lord Macaulay. Okay, that's the end of that.
Right. All right.
So now let's get everybody going on the next chapter, okay?
That was the strategy they used to break into India. And it still exists that in our thinking patterns, we always think we need to work for somebody. But during the historic times, Indians never had the need or the necessity to work under a person, the laboring class. But now it's just in the mentality that we all think we have to just need to work for an employer. Those days, it was more like they had their own lordships and they had their own businesses. They were on their own. They didn't need. I'm so sorry. That's my son in the background. So yeah.
He's got a beautiful voice.
Yeah, he's talking to his granddad about ghosts and how it happens. So it's a very interesting topic that's going on.
How old is he?
He's 6 years old.
Oh, he's great.
Fine.
About the same age as Ramachandra's children.
Yes. My daughter is 5. Yes. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mahaprabhu.
Hey, Mahaprabhu ki jai. After
All
so many
right.
days. Hari Bol, where are you?
Hare Bol. Almost home.
Okay. Almost home.
So may I respond to something that Shreya said?
Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
And that is that she says the Indians believe they have to work for somebody because they were turned into basic servants of the British.
Yes.
And even the high-class women, having no other way to make money, had to come in and serve the British in their homes as maids. Not just Shudrani, but they had even higher class women because they controlled the entire, had strangled the whole economy. So, you know the Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, right?
Chakrabarti, yes.
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, he wrote these wonderful songs, Vaishnava songs.
Yes.
Chakravarti is what does Chakravarti mean?
What does it mean? Chakrabarti
I'm
means
not sure.
Brahmin?
But it's
Maybe a king or something. Chakravarti
It means the king of kings.
King of
He's,
kings.
yeah, Chakravarti means he's like the emperor.
Oh, wow.
Very powerful. That's what it means.
But you know, because of chakra, right? But do what the British did to the word Chakravarti?
They turned into Chatterjee and Batterjee.
Yeah.
Chakra means wheel. Yeah.
So they take this high-born person and they refuse to call him Chakravarti. They call him Chatterjee. and I don't know what the Banerjee was, but they humiliated high-ranking Indians, not Hindus, but Vedic people descending from wonderful families. Chatterjee Banerjee. I'm only saying that to underline and appreciate, Shreya, what you said.
Try.
Jaho, Jai, 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 Hari Bol. Jai.
Haribo.
Hi, Matthew Prabhu is in the house. Oh, great.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, Mahaprabhu, just taking 2 minutes or so, can you let us know what you have concluded regarding Holy Spirit?
I figure that the Holy Spirit doesn't really exist in Krishna consciousness.
Right.
And why is that?
Haribol.
Haribol, good
question.
question.
Good question. I like it.
Question. Good question.
I think you
Point
should
to be
put
noted.
forward the question he questioned yesterday. You asked the question, same question. How much you know?
I was only trying to figure out what keeps us connected.
So what keeps us connected?
Right now, Zoom is connecting us right now.
Zoom. Thank Krishna for Zoom.
Power of internet.
The Holy Spirit of Zoom.
There we go.
But,
Thank you for clarifying.
Now you're
You guys are funny.
but I had a discussion where Mahaprabhu wonderfully fixed my phone so it works with the hearing aids, and he fixed one of my 2 hearing aids so that they work so much better now.
Hare Krishna.
Jai. So at that time, I asked him about that, and he agreed that what he was thinking the Holy Spirit was, and what the people teaching the catechism in the university Catholic schools said was the Holy Spirit, was not the same thing that he thought he wanted it to be. And so he said, it doesn't exist in the same category.
Jai.
Is that okay? He didn't just decide to be quiet. I believe, from what I understand, his countenance, his words, that he accepted the distinction and has accepted that what we're dealing with is on a higher plane than that described by the Holy Spirit. Am I off track, or is that okay?
It's a process, but it's happening.
Yeah.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Okay.
Takes time.
What keeps us together?
Is your soul my soul?
Mahaprabhu is so confused.
Transcendental keeps us together to find a higher ground.
We're not limited by Zoom.
There you go. Perfectly stated.
Okay, try.
But Zoom is limited by us.
Well, it depends on who you're zooming with.
But the platform only is powerful if the people zooming are powerful.
Right.
Haribol. Jai, Jai, Jai. Jai Prabhupada.
So that's an important point, because in Istagosthi, the jiva is communicating, not the body. Insofar as the body communicates, it becomes an unresolvable situation.
How do we know we're speaking? How do we know we're speaking from the jiva?
No, it's not.
It's funny.
If it's Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha.
I love Mark Cuban, bro. Haribol. Mahaprabhu, I love you.
Boy, I love you too, my friend.
I
love you all. I love you all.
From the jiva.
So, Mahaprabhu, if we understand that the body is not conscious, but we think it's conscious because the mind convinces the soul that the body is conscious because the mind wants to identify the body. Then if we speak as spirit soul, then we speak outside of the body. We're not speaking as the body anymore. We're speaking as the soul because the soul is conscious and the body is not. Okay.
And the body can influence the soul?
No.
Like if you have realized what you're speaking, and if you realize that it is the truth and you speak on that platform, you're speaking from the platform of soul. That's what I believe.
The soul can make a fool of itself, but it cannot be modified for the body.
Is a fallen conditioned soul contaminated by material contamination.
The soul can be contaminated by the body.
No, the soul cannot be contaminated. It can be covered.
The body is material energy, so it's true.
The body is a lie, isn't it?
Yeah, the soul is never contaminated, but there's a contaminated covering of material conception of life.
So it's like a screen.
Exactly.
A smoke screen.
Remember, the soul is suspiciously contaminated because the soul
is conditioned by the body.
Yes, because conditioned soul means marginal energy. Krishna himself will not, cannot, and has no inclination to be conditioned by material energy. But the soul, being infinitesimal, can be marginalized by material energy.
So the soul is trying to be tricked by the material being.
Well, the material being isn't a being. He's trying to trick himself into thinking that his material body is the self. But the material body is not the self, which is proved at the funeral where the body is there and the soul is not. So all of a sudden, people that believe that they are their body go to a funeral and see that apparently they are not their body, but they don't let them shake their own faith in their own body. They just say, "Oh, that person died."
I'm listening.
What's missing from a dead body? You tell me. What's missing from the dead body?
The jiva.
Exactly.
Oh, I got that right.
Jiva is the soul.
Amen.
Yes.
Soul.
So, and the soul has left the body. You understand? No longer conscious.
That's right.
So who
and
are you?
The body is always dead. It's a corpse. The only reason it moves around and looks like it's alive and has blood pumping through it is simply because of the presence of the soul. The second the soul leaves, the body falls to the ground and begins to deteriorate and decompose.
Copy that.
Prabhu? Comprende?
Comprende, capisco.
Okay, very
good. So what happened to Shreya? I interrupted her and now she's gone. Where is she?
She's here.
I'm back. I was just connecting back on my laptop.
All right.
Hare.
So Shreya Prabhu, please, forgive me, first of all, for interrupting your flow. I wanted to tie things up with Lord Macaulay and also your point about the British degrading the higher classes, like turning Chakravarti into Chatterjee. Can you imagine how rude that is? But anyhow, now you have the floor, okay?
No problem, Prabhu. No problem. They also changed the names of our cities because it was difficult for them to pronounce the names. So whatever they liked, they called it. So for example, my particular city was originally called Bendakaluru, but then because they could not say it, they went ahead and changed it to Bangalore. And now we've put it back to Bengaluru. So it's actually funny. We had meanings behind names. They never looked at all those values. and they just went ahead and made all the changes they needed. So I used to question the same in my group of friends. So in case an English name is difficult for me to pronounce, so do I go ahead and change it according to the best of my pronunciation capacity? Is what I asked, and that's when they were like, "Oh, you're an outcast." So people don't get it, anyways.
Shreya, do you want to come on your video so we can see you?
Surely someday. I'm not
Someday.
ready today.
Okay.
But it was great to see you in the traditional wear. Do you also keep a bindi?
I
The dot on
need.
your forehead?
Well, I'm not married anymore, but I would like to wear tilak, and Ramachandra's mailing me some tilak, so I'm gonna start wearing tilak.
Right. You could use your eyeliner liquids. We do that because
I don't
we
have
like
golden colored eyeliner.
it doesn't matter. You can use any colors. It's just you can see it as an ornament. But
Well,
yes,
she'll
the
have
married women
to-
do use that for a sindoor as well, which is on right at the top of your forehead as well, the beginning of your hair.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the sindoor, which is usually kept by the married women. I'm just talking about the dot and the designs
you
that
know,
go on.
Before we had Gopi Chandan, meaning the real clay from the side of the bank of the Yamuna where the gopis committed suicide, that's what we wear on our forehead. Before that, Prabhupada, we had no such tilak until we went to India. Prabhupada had us use a product from a pharmacy called Fuller's Earth. So we mixed up the Fuller's Earth and kept it in a dish, and then dipped our finger in the dish and you put on the tilak that way. But I can tell you a funny short incident. I was in New York building stuff in 61 Second Avenue, building the altar and all that. And I thought for fun, I would do something unusual. There was white paint in a bucket, latex paint. So I took some latex paint and put that on in the nighttime as tilak. So here I had white tilak. And so then what happened the next day, I had built a shower in the Brahmachari area. There were no Brahmacharis. I went into the Brahmachari area and took a shower. And when I came out of the shower, the Brahmacharis gasped. They nearly fainted because I walked out of the shower with water streaming over my head and my tilak perfectly in place. Because it was white latex paint. That's how I used to have fun sometimes.
That's cool, Narayan.
It was funny.
Yeah.
But anyhow, let's get back to Shreya. She always brings up the level of the conversation.
Right.
Well, I think Rupa Manjari looks good with or without eyeliner.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Hare Krishna.
Okay.
So I'm going to get more tilak. So if you visit at any time, I'll have some for you also you can take. But if other than that, or wait for Ramachandra to send it.
We have Tulsipati Prabhu coming on Zoom. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Tulsipati Prabhu from Jaipur. Haribol.
Dandavat pranam to all Prabhuji.
Jai Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
All the Vaishnavas.
I have a question for Naranaran Prabhu
Yes.
to tell me from history. So when you actually met Srila Prabhupada, how old were you, Prabhu?
When I first met Srila Prabhupada, well, I first met Srila Prabhupada about 2 years before I took initiation. A year and a half before I took, about over a year before I took initiation. I went to the temple, tried to understand what he was saying. I didn't have hearing aids. I couldn't understand. He had a very bad microphone, very bad amplifier, and he had quite a strong accent. I couldn't make sense of anything. And I didn't like the people that were there. It's a dark, not very pleasant space. About a year later, they had, the devotees had painted the whole place, put up a beautiful altar, carved Jagannath deities, and there was a nice asana for Prabhupada and a good speaking system. So I used to go there to the temple and see the devotees, but Prabhupada was elsewhere. He was in India and then in Montreal. So what happened later is I first met Srila Prabhupada face to face when I had already asked him for initiation by mail. And I took initiation in September 20th, September 20th, 1968. So at that time, I was 24 years old.
When you took initiation?
So to make a long story short, I was 24 years old.
Sure.
And Prabhu, I just want to also ask you, since you were as young as 24, of course we all make our own drastic decisions. We do a lot of mistakes during that age because we think we're capable of many things. So did you also, get into trouble for having to think differently, or did you have your own, fun activities apart from being in ISKCON or following Srila Prabhupada?
Well,
What was fun all about the?
I was accepting disciplines. I studied Zen Buddhism for 3 years with a top Zen master named Suzuki Roshi, who now has whole institutes named after him in San Francisco area. Big skyscraper, not skyscraper, but big buildings. And I studied with him. I studied Tibetan Buddhism. I wasn't attracted to Hindu philosophy, but then when I came up with my own philosophy, and I happened to have a whole bunch of followers, not many, maybe 30 or 40 followers that used to come and listen to me going on and on the way I do now, except it was just nonsense, macrocosm, microcosms, conceptual stuff. And then I came across a devotee in the temple, and I was sitting there with my brother trying to convince him of my philosophy. And I listened to him, and he convinced me of Krishna consciousness. That was Tamal Krishna, of all people. So Tamal Krishna is my Varna Pradaksha Guru. He completely transformed me. And I sat there listening, and I heard somebody talking complete nonsense. And I looked to my left, and there was my brother saying exactly what I had been saying to Tamal 5 minutes before. And it sounded so ridiculously bad, what I'd been saying before, after I got who Krishna was. So I turned to my brother and I said, I would have given anything for a iPhone photo of my brother's face when I said this. He said, but Matthew, it was his Carmen name, Matthew, can't you see that he's completely right? Because I was putting up the view, and my brother, being 2 years younger, was seconding my view. And so he was pushing at Tamal with my view. Well, I changed my consciousness, looked at my brother and said, can't you see that he's completely right? Just take your imagination. And my brother had a very expressive face. His look of incredulous astonishment would have been worthy of being on the front of Time magazine. It was just amazing, his expression.
Jai Tamal Krishna.
Prabhu, I have one more question.
That's why I couldn't kill him when I had the chance.
And Prabhu, I have a question for you. If you can reply. Okay. Hare Krishna. So, Prabhu, according to you, it's a slight, not spiritual question, but yeah. Why did Britishers came in India when we are the land of jewels, where Krishna's, where Vrindavan is there, where all the godly things are there? Then also we had to be under the rule of Britishers. And what's your take on that? Why did they came? Because we are the land of God. God couldn't have helped us, right?
Why British? Why not go back to work when Krishna was ready to leave the planet? When Maharaj Pariksit was seeing the bull being beaten, and Prabhupada said, the deities in the temple are crying in the temple and seemingly moving from that place. Why in the very end of Dwapara Yuga, on the cusp of Kali Yuga, would the deities be crying in the temple and seemingly moving from the temple to go elsewhere? You see, why would the bull be beaten by the Shudra? I mean, that is still not Kali Yuga. It's slightly before Kali Yuga, on the cusp of Kali Yuga. So you're asking, why did the British come to this holy land? Because that's what's supposed to happen. Because it's part of why will Kalki come and kill everybody? That's what's supposed to happen. Kali Yuga is like winter. Everything in winter, all the leaves and fruits and flowers and beautiful things that are harvested in the autumn of the fall are then turned into dust and dirt and slime and fertilizer when winter comes around. All the sap in the tree retreats back to the roots of the trees, and all the plants, all the leaves fall off the trees. You know, not the deciduous trees, the ones whose leaves fall, not evergreens. But all of these things happen because of winter. So Kali Yuga is the winter of the 4 seasons. After Kali Yuga comes Satya Yuga. If you want to have a good time, take birth in Satya Yuga. They don't even have a written language in Satya Yuga because everyone has a completely photographic memory. So you don't need to write things down because everybody remembers. It was only at the end of Dwapara Yuga when Vedavyas wrote down the Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, Ramayana, all these things. When he wrote these things down, it was because people in Kali Yuga have no real memory. And therefore, they have to read. You can't speak it and they'll remember it. So why did the British, look at what happened, why did the Mughals come in to India? And even then, at the beginning of, 5,000 years ago, everything in the Vedic culture began to disintegrate. If the Vedic culture had not disintegrated, they could have kicked the Mughals out and all of their relatives too, and just killed them and thrown them out of India. But they didn't. The Mughals took over India.
Right.
And then the British came in on the tail end of the Mughals, and they didn't come in to conquer India. They came in as the British East India Trading Company. And thanks to Benjamin Disraeli and others, they carefully crafted the Indian company. You see, the Indians all the Vaishyas in India were delighted to manufacture articles from gold, silver, marble, silk, linen, all the things that India has always been famous for. Back then, it was even better, and they would bring these things to India, to England, and England would bring back money and stuff and other merchandise to give to the Rajas. I was in Mysore, and I went into the Mysore Palace. I was looking around and I saw beautiful columns that were standing there. And I went over to the column and I tapped on it with my fist. That's what I'm like. I do things like that. I don't have any respect. I'm an art restorer, so I went to see what was it made of. It went bong, bong, bong. I said, bong, bong, bong. This is not marble. And so I started looking at it very carefully, and I looked at the base of the column of that palace, Vedic column in that palace. I looked at it, and it said, made in Scotland. So what happened when all the gold and silver was being transported to England? They traded and brought back marble and brought back cast iron columns to use instead of marble ones, just to be exotic. So the kings had something they couldn't buy in India. So that's what happened. It all turned into a whorehouse, if you will, if you don't mind the term. It turned into a prostitution situation where the kings prostituted themselves to get exotic things and to get wealth and to get unusual and to make friends with the British, because the British were from somewhere else and they were very political. They knew how to talk. You know, they had monarchy, a really strict monarchy in England. They learned how to talk very elegantly to the kings and how to treat them as real royalty, something that nobody else could do. Even the Mughals stayed out of the way of the Hindus. A lot of British became Muslims under the Mughals because they liked the culture better. There's a book called, what's it called? It's called, I think it's called English Mughals by an author named Dalrymple, where it describes how the British became totally carried away by the Mughal style of living, particularly the Zenana. You know, Zenana is the harem of the. They liked that idea. They liked everything about the Mughals lived, literally posh, very comfortably.
Okay.
So anyhow, getting back to the British came into a country that had already been raped and pillaged by the Mughals, but sort of like equally. The Mughals came in and took over, and the Indian kings were there, and they had wars. They had the things, Ashok in New Delhi area. All of these people were fighting, and they were living, they were surviving. But when the British came in, they bought their way in, and they treated the British treated the Indian kings with such great respect. So therefore they listened. But the British were so clever with their divide and conquer. They would go to one king that was next door to another king, and they'd say to that king, you know, I think I travel around between your two kingdoms, and you can't do that because you're completely different kings, different languages, whatever. And I heard them talking about how they're going to bring an army and invade your kingdom and take everything you have. And the Maharaj said, can I trust what you're saying? And the British envoy crossed his fingers behind his back and said, oh yes, you can trust what I say. So the Maharaj, in a state very grateful, said, oh, thank you so much for warning me. We would have been destroyed and killed and everything and robbed. So he took his army and put it along the border of the other king. So then this envoy goes back to the other king and says, look at this. Your neighbor is planning to attack you. Oh no, he'd never do that. We're good friends. Well, why is his army on your border? What do you mean his army's on the border? He sends out scouts. Good God, there's army on the border. Why? Because he's trying to attack you. You should pay attention to what I'm saying. So he brings his army to the border. That means the king that he talked to first to put his army on the border said, oh, that guy was right. The envoy was right because he's coming up with his army. Good thing we're with our army. Then they had a big fight. And who wins? The Britisher.
Mm.
Divide and conquer.
All
he
right.
put the two kings against each other, and then he ended up putting the cash in his pocket.
Okay. So any more questions? We're coming down to the wire now. It's 10:30.
Oh, well, what happened with Shreya? She was saying something.
I have one question, Prabhu.
Go ahead. Yes.
It's not spiritual. It's not spiritual. Just
Go ahead. Ask.
Curious. How do we have Srila Prabhupada's videos, like how he, came to America and all of that? I mean, who recorded it, or is it somebody representing Srila Prabhupada in all those videos?
Oh, they were all devotees. Mostly.
I mean,
some
even
were from the
before he started the movement.
Well, there's no videos before he started the movement, as far as I know.
They do have these videos about how he came in Jaladuta, and they show those imagery and how he suffered the heart attacks.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Nobody had a camera on the Jaladuta. This is all made later, or made with actors, or part of, like there's a movie that Garubar and Vishaka made about Prabhupada, and they tried to reproduce the history of Prabhupada coming on the Jaladuta to here and stuff like that. But there were not the videos that came up. They weren't videos because we didn't have video cameras then. They were black and white movies and we had black and white movies like 8mm, 16mm, which is twice the size, and people nothing bigger than 16mm. For the movie theaters, they had 32mm. So 32 by half is 16, 16 by half is 8. But they mostly had 16mm black and white. And some people came and made movies of Prabhupada chanting here and there, but mostly photographs. And so most of the things you might think are movies are still photographs with people talking over them and switching the photos around. But as far as Prabhupada, there's a few, like in New York, Prabhupada walking in front of the temple, leading kirtan, marching down the street with devotees trailing behind him, and they're having Sankirtan. And that's a movie. That's a genuine film. Does that answer your question, Shreya, or that's not quite answer it?
Yes, because in some of the videos we do see how Srila Prabhupada goes trying to publish his books and he's walking on the streets. So I was just wondering, even before he would have got established, how was it that it was recorded? So I mean, it was
No,
not
no.
sinking well in my head. So I was just
Frankly,
wondering what was
Prabhu,
happening.
my best knowledge, which could be less than yours if you've seen this, is that nobody made any videos of Prabhupada before his own disciples made them, or news people, but news agencies made them.
Ideally, that should have been the case. So I'm just
They have
thinking how these
recreated it.
videos came to be.
Recreated those
It's possible that some news programs recorded Prabhupada, and these have been recently discovered.
Right,
But
the interview.
I was never aware of it. Well, it also depends on the year. In the years later, like the 66 is different than 67. 67 is different than 68. By 1968, there was a lot of technology being used to record Prabhupada and to make videos of, not videos, 16mm movies of Prabhupada.
All right.
The videos themselves didn't come out until decades later.
Okay. Any more questions from devotees? Tulsipati Prabhu, anything?
I think that Shreya had more question.
Yes,
a little
yes.
bit.
Anyone?
Yeah, Prabhuji, actually, I think last I think time we were discussing that about the elections of the presidents in the country.
I couldn't understand. Do you have somebody understand?
Your voice is not clear. Your voice is not clear.
I'm saying, Prabhuji, that last time we were you were discussing the as Prabhupada said that there should be elections for the president of the temple.
Say, Ramachandra, can you repeat?
Yeah, Tulsipati Prabhu is saying that last time you said there must be elections for the temple president, right, Tulsipati Prabhu?
Well,
Yeah,
Rupa Manjari was saying that actually there must be elections for the GBC, but if you take into account sometimes a temple president will be in an apartment that he registers as ISKCON and he's living there by himself or with his wife. You can't have an election if there's only two people there. Of course, the husband's going to elect the wife, or the wife's going to elect the husband. No, so when the temple is supported by congregation, that is when you can elect the temple president. But until then, so Prabhupada never made a provision to elect the temple president, but he did make it a provision to elect the GBC. And it's because the temple, he wanted temples to be as few as one person. So how can you have an election? But if a bunch of people come, now another condition, supposing that you own a nice big house, you paid for it, and you turn it into a temple, and a whole bunch of people move in, and they say, we want to elect somebody else to be temple president. So wait a minute, you can't do that. This is my house. You can't vote me out of my house. You can all leave and get another place to live, but not in my house because it's my house. Of course, he could donate his house to ISKCON, but and then be voted out. But that's not necessarily the etiquette. It doesn't matter. Whoever the temple president is doesn't matter very much. What matters is what he does, and if he's not popular and he's like in New Dwarka, the temple president has no material or connection with the temple at all in Los Angeles. There's no connection to the temple. He's there by popular demand. And so Shavas became temple president in 85 or something of that sort. And he's still the temple president because every time he tries to leave, the whole community converges on him and forces him to stay. There's a lot of people that are Savas haters, but there's the majority of the people there don't want anybody from Savas to be temple president because he's done an extremely good job within a very narrow and, in my point of view, underutilized category. So it's not that you have to elect a temple president, but if you have a temple president, you can re-elect the temple president, which is the case of Savas. But that's largely because there isn't anybody else that could do it. So because nobody else could be the temple president, he's the temple president. That raises the question, why from so many people, and in the 1970s, so many people gave up being temple presidents, were married, they came to New Dwarka because they could get an apartment and raise their children and send them to the local Gurukul. So, the temple-run Gurukul said, why didn't any of them become temple presidents? Well, a few of them did, and it ended disastrously, horribly, in fact. So they finally got Savas and they wouldn't let go of him. Now, my conceded role is that I came there, I built the temple there, I did everything there, and everything they did, they tried to kick me out because they didn't like my influence there for reasons which you can well imagine. So, not for Maya, but for my spiritual mentality. And so Savas made a mistake. He should have been temple president and he should have made me second in command. I would have turned that temple into a wondrous work of art that people would flock in tour buses to come and see. More attractive than Prabhupada's palace. I could have done all of that. I would have put neem trees down Watsika Avenue. I would have turned all the temple apartments into beautiful ashrams. But they didn't want to do it. They wanted to, as quickly as possible, become Grihamedis. So that's what they succeeded. They kicked me out of building the temple in Los Angeles because they said I took too long. I took 6 months, and most of the time I was spending under the floor putting in timbers to hold the floor up so when you danced, the marble stones that I put on top wouldn't fly up in the air. But they couldn't handle that. They wanted it now, just like their other temples. Just put down linoleum, put down carpet, who cares? We want now. We want our temple open now. So they kicked me out. They put in a guy to do it who cheated them out of $100,000 and produced no results in reality. No good results. But I'd already done this. I did the engineering work and made it strong, and he made it so that the marble columns that I built and designed would fall down because they were not properly reinforced. So this is what it was. It was the mentality of the congregation also at that time was just now. They didn't care about any big effect. They just wanted to be Shudras.
Okay. What's next? Who's the next person that's going to ask the question? Tulsipati Prabhu, anything else?
Arti Prabhu?
Prabhuji, actually, Prabhuji mentioned about, Narayan Prabhu mentioned about Tamal Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was curious that you were telling that, he just, he introduced you to the Krishna consciousness. So then I was wondering
he didn't introduce me. I'd already read the Bhagavad Gita, but not Prabhupada's
Okay.
version. Prabhupada's version hadn't come out yet.
Hmm.
Hare Krishna. So, so no, he didn't introduce me to Krishna consciousness. He just convinced me of Krishna and the role of Krishna and the spiritual master. And he convinced me how to surrender to the spiritual master was the only way to get out of my mechanistic, basically Mayavada conclusions.
Okay. So I was like wondering, how, I mean, it's like after such a long duration of, serving, so how can somebody, turn around like that? How can somebody, I mean, as you know, I have
What do you
heard on
say?
YouTube. I mean, after
What?
I was wondering that, if somebody's, serving for so long,
Yes.
so then how can they, how can somebody just turn on his, own guru? Like, how can he himself poison his guru?
Are you talking about how could they poison Prabhupada?
Yeah.
No. He's saying Tamal Krishna, having been serving Srila Prabhupada such a long time, how can he just turn around and poison Srila Prabhupada?
He thought he was doing Krishna a favor.
Oh.
Because I told you I could have killed Tamal and I didn't because he was my Varna production guru. I overheard him talking in Bombay to Shyamasunder, who was completely scorched by Prabhupada because he wanted Prabhupada to get into his ruby mine business, which was, Prabhupada said they're fake. And Shyamasunder said, no, I've seen them. He said they put them there, which is true. It's called salting the mine. You put some rubies there and then you think, oh, this is a ruby mine. So he and Shyamasunder were talking, and Tamal was saying clearly, Srila Prabhupada is old and senile. He's become senile in his own age. And then he said that he will never be able to buy, this is before they got Juhu, they'll never be able to buy that Bombay land. And so Tamal actually went and gave the land back to the guy that was selling it to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada had to pay 10 lakhs of rupees to get it back again. And back then, 10 lakhs of rupees was worth a huge more than it is now, really like a couple of $1 million. And so, so then Prabhupada exiled Tamal to China. But when Tamal was sitting there, he said, Prabhupada is old and senile. Why? Because Tamal, this is a complicated thing. I will try to not make it complicated. But in 1969, Tamal came up to me in Los Angeles, and he joined 6 months before I did. But he sort of looked at me. He thought I was. He drew like a mistaken conclusion that I was intelligent. So he came up to me and grabbed my arm, and he was like practically fainting and falling on the ground in a swoon. Oh, Hare Krishna Prabhus, look at those wonderful children. Jai, oh, Jai, Shai Shri Krishna. Look at you. You have your hand on your chin. And you're there smiling and putting your hand on your face. I'm so honored to meet both of you. Wonderful.
What's their names?
Of the future. The leaders of the future are standing behind you.
क्या नाम है? नाम क्या है? नाम?
नाम बताओ. नाम बताओ.
Tamal had only one goal in life, and that was to become the next Acharya. Even in 1969, he joined, Tamal joined about early 1968, joined the temple. I joined on the 20th of September 1968. Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me at all?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can.
Yeah. Okay. So anyhow, by a year and a half after he became initiated, he told me that he wants, Prabhupada said he has so many stars and he wants one moon. And Tamal grabbed my arm, looked deeply into my eyes and said, I am that moon. I am that moon. So when Tamal said Prabhupada was senile, he was saying that because he was convinced that Prabhupada did not recognize that he was the moon. You see? he could not
So then-
recognize that he could not recognize that Prabhupada had not seen him as his moon. He even wrote a play later on called The Emperor and His Most Confidential Advisor, in which the emperor exiles his advisor on the advice of envious people in the kingdom. So that's Kamal being exiled to China, okay? So, and then he comes back from China and the emperor embraces him and says, oh yes, you are my chosen follower, my chosen successor. So, then what, you could, if you want, you could mute yourself and I'll wave my hand like that when you unmute yourself. What do you think? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. All right. And I'll wave my hand when not mute yourself. You can hear me, right? Can you hear? Yes?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yes, I can. Yes, yes.
Okay, good. Okay, you can turn it on and off quickly too, like that too. So then when Kamal said Prabhupada was old and senile, I think that he told Narayan Maharaj that, and Narayan Maharaj said, well, you have to do something about it. You have to do something about it. If he is old and senile, do you want him to be sitting on the Vyasasan with thousands of people around him drooling and unable to complete a sentence? Do you want him to be that foolish? All of his work, his whole preaching, his whole movement, all of his books will be out the window. So you should do something to stop that. So Kamal thought, well, how will I stop it? Well, you have to poison Prabhupada. So if he convinced all the poisoners that Prabhupada was senile, then they had a justification to poison him, to serve him, because he was no longer capable of managing the movement because he didn't agree with them in their opinion. Then he could, if he poisoned Prabhupada, he would be performing the greatest service to Prabhupada because it would make his movement complete and intact and not destroyed. And then he and his fellow poisoners would take over the movement and become the succeeding acharyas and be the greatest asset and glory that Prabhupada could even have imagined. I'm saying that's in his divine mind. Okay? So does that make sense? Does it make sense to you? You can unmute.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. And actually, so that poisoning is still going on.
Well, yeah. Yeah, and that's okay. Krishna Kant, Prabhuji's, accept my obeisances and accept my blessing. Because you're jivas, please accept my humble obeisances. Because you're children, please accept my blessings. And if I give you my blessings, that means you must grow up to be, you have to grow up to be great devotees. Okay? You have to grow up to deliver the fallen souls. Even the ants, even the mice, chant Hare Krishna to them and make sure they never take birth as they go back to Godhead. If you chant Hare Krishna to a mouse or to a frog or to a dog, they will make spiritual advancement. So children, can you agree? Do they speak English? English, Polo? Janta? Oh, you're muted. Okay. Do they
Only your voice
speak?
is breaking.
Huh?
I think it's from your side.
You can't hear my
Anyway,
voice?
I think we're
Now it's all right.
Anyhow, did I answer your question okay? I was in the middle of all that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's because I was like there is a very big preacher in ISKCON, and as you were mentioning the ISKCON Mumbai. So I mean, if you look at his preaching, so actually it's very unfortunate that he never utters the name of Krishna. It's just that he's talking about Lion King and
Who?
he's talking about everything,
Who is?
but not about Krishna.
Who's
There's
talking
a very
about
big
Lion
preacher,
King?
in India actually. So
What?
nowadays he's very
Gopal
much in
Gordon.
trend.
Who's doing that?
Gopal
So
Gordon,
actually,
right? I
yeah.
think
So
that's
that's
Who
what
is?
that's what. Yeah. So so that is where everything is coming from, because there, everything started, and now it's just now we can
Okay.
see that everything is falling apart. He's I mean
Okay, so you
now
have come, you have, they're falling apart, we're coming together.
yeah, it
We are
is
going to
quite
cure,
evident.
but we can't
Yeah.
cure it with politics, we can't cure it with votes, we can't cure it with anything except Istagosthi. We speak as spirit soul. Don't bother speaking like a rational human being. There is no such thing. Speak as Jivatma. Speak, I am Aham Brahmasmi. I am the soul. And I say, we must have Prabhupada. That way he did this and he said that, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and this is bad and it's not good. No, let's not do that. Let's just say, Aham Brahmasmi. I don't need the body for me to speak, because the body doesn't speak. The body is a dead thing. It's like an automobile. It only moves when the driver moves it. I'm the driver. I'm the soul. Therefore, I speak and the body doesn't speak. I don't have to talk about problems that I or other people created. Don't need to.
Yeah. So actually, probably the purpose, actually, for me personally, I do not even care what anybody else is doing. It's just that whatever I ask is for my own protection. I'm not asking for defaming anybody or blaming anybody. It's just that I myself want to have the knowledge that I do not want to deviate sometimes down the line. So I want to know, so I'm curious that what made that particular person deviate, so that I can save myself. So this is the reason for me asking. I'm not trying to defame or anything, blame anybody.
Prabhu, can I say something in this case?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Now my question to you will be: why did Duryodhana think of whatever he thought in terms of the Pandavas?
Even though Krishna was there,
envy.
why didn't he accept Krishna to be supreme? Why did he reject Krishna?
Correct.
That is the question.
Correct.
He was the Ansh of Kali, he was envious, the envy. So he couldn't
I didn't understand. Who are we talking about?
Duryodhana.
Duryodhan.
Duryodhan. Yeah.
So
Well,
Tulsi Prabhu, you just
Duryodhana
answered your question. So everybody has a different motive, and people like those who are not sticking to Srila Prabhupada's preaching, or they are shying away from using the same language as he did, are trying to represent themselves important and not give the importance to Srila Prabhupada. That's about it. Why is he doing is what he has chosen to do. Now, although Duryodhana was given the vision like couple of times before the war that I am the supreme personality of Godhead, he did not make the willingness to identify Lord Krishna. Likewise,
Yeah, so that is the thing, Prabhuji, that Duryodhan was from the beginning he was envious. It was not like that from the beginning he was devoted and then after some
Same
time
with
he just turned
same
around.
with Tamala Krishna and devotees also. No, from the beginning they were like
So
that.
when somebody initially, it's like Prabhupada says that if you
when you
start
get a
Krishna
platform,
consciousness,
it is very, very common that we tend to take things for granted and we become totally egoistic. See, when you join maybe your first job, you would probably be making maybe 10,000 rupees. But at the same time, when you know that in the next year you might get into the promotion with all your promotions to the VP's level, do you think you will be not willing to do that one small crime so that you'll step up? People are like that.
well, a
It
karmi
is the
would do that,
temptation,
obviously.
it is the Maya playing to test whether you still want to continue to be humble and think about Lord Krishna, stay surrendered to Srila Prabhupada, or
No,
because of position, because of money, because of fame, because of name, Are you going to be willing to step away a little bit out of the way of dharma and go ahead?
Yeah.
So I see it
So
that way.
actually,
I think
yeah.
that's where the mistake
Actually, what
happens.
Yeah, but
Narnarayan Prabhu was referring that he was in his mind, he was thinking that he is doing a great service. I mean, he wasn't even thinking about any popularity or anything. He was thinking that I am doing a great service to Prabhupada. It's like,
yeah,
uh, I mean, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, na dhanam na janam na sundarim. So, in which category this kind of thinking falls? If a disciple starts to think that by killing my guru, I am doing a great favor to him. So, in which category, what kind of material motive is behind such kind of thinking? That a devotee
exactly. Because inside of that is a bija, and that bija is envy. The bija of envy is there, and he translates it into, I want to do this service. But which of the people who poisoned him didn't want to become gurus? They could have waited 10 years, but why would they want to use up their youth and then middle age being servants when they could use their youth and middle age to be gurus? When they could get pleasure, material pleasure from being worshipped. Why should they wait? Prabhupada was supposed to live 10 more years, his astrologer said. He said that if you're not done in by your disciples, followers, you will live to be 10 more years. So that means instead of 78, it would have been 88. That's a major difference. So
all right. It's been
the
3 hours
basic
going on.
So the root was the envy, envious. But
No, thing is, Prabhupada can connect them to Krishna. He can give scriptural guidance. It's up to them. They have their free will. It's up to them to follow. I mean, Prabhupada, you can't expect Prabhupada to change
so
all the persons
so
in the
that's what
society. He can only give the direction, and it's up to them to take it up.
yes.
Yeah. So then,
exactly.
probably as you are saying that the root cause was envy. Yeah,
Well,
the
meaning
beach
that
was
they
envy.
wanted, you see, even in 1970, when Prabhupada created the direction of management, you're aware of that, to create the GBC for being elected for 3-year terms, Prabhupada created the direction of management for a number of reasons. One of them was because the temple presidents were already getting out of control. So he wanted to create a GBC that would be advisors to the temple presidents, but that they wouldn't be above the temple presidents. They would be elected from the temple presidents for 3 years. That would have made a very homogeneous structure that the temple presidents would be instead of becoming envious of the leadership, they would become the leadership, and then they'd come back knowing stuff and become better temple presidents without being so envious. So it was a very beautiful concept that Prabhupada had, unfortunately not used.
Yeah. So as you're saying, the point that I'm getting out of here is that out of envy, for his spiritual master, devotee starts to think like that. Disciple starts to think like that. So
could be whatever vice, greed, envy, lust, whatever vice it could be.
Well, there's another explanation. All of this leads to long conversations. I try to put it succinctly in the nectar of devotion.
Actually, Narayana Prabhu, actually, what I'm interested in is that how to identify this envy. Actually, you are saying that the disciple is envious towards his spiritual master, so he can even go to the extent of poisoning him.
So how do you avoid it?
How to identify whether that tendency is there in my heart or not, or if that is, so how to cleanse that?
It is there because we are envious of Krishna, isn't it so? We are envious of Krishna.
If you are a devotee, a disciple, initiated, kanista adhikari, you're thinking that you're your body, but you're purifying your body by following the regular principles, taking prasadam, all that stuff, right? everyone thinks they're the body. Oh, every member of ISKCON, including the so-called initiators, gurus, they also are thinking that they're their body. They're experiencing being their body, and that's Maya. Okay, so as long as a person identifies as the body, they're going to envy the pure devotee. But the minute a person doesn't think of themselves or experience being the body, but experiences aham brahmasmi, when I experience that I am the soul, how you can be envious of anyone? The soul is independent. The soul is independent and part and parcel of Krishna. What could be better than to be part of Krishna and yourself at the same time? It's only when the body. Yeah, envy only exists in the material mind and body.
There's nothing to gain and nothing to lose when you're situated on the soul platform.
Well, so we can back away from that mentality, right? We can say aham brahmasmi. In Istagosthi, we cannot speak according to our body. Right now, we should not be thinking from the body. We should be saying, I want to tell the truth. And you cannot tell the truth from the body. You can quote the truth in the body. Prabhupada said this, that, I experienced this once, or I saw it in a dream. You can do that. But in reality, you cannot experience, you cannot speak as a devotee from realization as the body. You can only speak as spirit soul. Prabhupada put it succinctly. He said in the Jaladuta to Paramatma, he prayed, make me dance like a puppet on a string. In other words, Prabhupada said, never mind Abhay Charan and his body, take this Abhay Charan body and speak through it. Make it dance, make it move, make it offer pranams, may it bow down to the deity, the Abhay Charan body. But who is making that happen? Prabhupada begged, Paramatma, please you do that. Everyone else is trying to get Paramatma to do what we want in the terms of the body. And if you stop to think of it, who gave the poisoners the mentality, the power, and the capacity, and the ingredients to poison Prabhupada? Who did that? You think they did it by themselves? Nobody does anything by themselves. Because they desired to poison Prabhupada, Paramatma gave them the intelligence, the power, and the ingredients to poison Prabhupada. Why not? If you want it, and it's within your realm to do it, you can have it. If you want to murder your mother-in-law, you can do it. Some people do murder their mother-in-law. But anyhow, you can do what you want as long as you have the capacity. If I want to fly a huge airplane, I could do it. Maybe I even know how to do it. I can't do it because I don't have the airplane. But can I get a skateboard and skate on the skateboard? Yes. It's within my capacity. Who enables me to do that? Paramatma. Paramatma enables us to do everything.
Can I say something here, Prabhu?
Of course.
Okay. Tulsi Prabhu, so you're asking how do I identify within me if I have this tendency of envious characters, right? So you want to find out about yourself, whether this is something that you have within you. The best way to do that is at every confused juncture that you face in life, you have to always see from the point of view of the good people, or rather say, if it was somebody like Srila Prabhupada at that point in time, do you think he would do what your heart is saying to do, or would you do what you think is right to do? And that's where even the Bhagavad Gita tells you, you have to follow your dharma. If you're a kshatriya, fight the war, but don't worry about the results, don't worry about the fruits.
Devotees do not have to follow their karma.
Not
right?
karma, dharma, I said, Prabhu.
Oh, dharma. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the dharma of every jiva is to surrender to Krishna.
Yeah.
You
So
see, the jiva, you are jiva. The jiva is not capable of being envious of anybody. Do you know why? The jiva is not different than Krishna. Krishna is not envious. So how can the jiva be envious? Only when the jiva identifies with the body and then wishes that that body had what the other person in the body has, then they become envious. And they try to take it away, or they commit suicide. I mean, there's a million things that people could do if they have, you know, if they're envious. But the whole point is you don't have to be envious. How can you avoid right now not ever being envious?
To be on the platform of soul.
Yeah, be the spirit soul. Be who you are. Aham doesn't mean you are or I am. Aham means I am. Aham, Brahma.
Prabhu, we are he's trying to understand what is that that he needs to do in a practical sense of the situation.
Prabhuji, Narayana Prabhu. So I want to ask, you know, this thing that at that in those times, so were those devotees, were they chanting 16 rounds continuously, and they were attending Mangala and Mangala Aarti, Darshan Aarti, Sandhya Aarti? Were they completely following the rules and regulations strictly, or were they just, you know, avoiding all these?
Nobody
can. They were engaged. All the day they were engaged in Prabhupada's service along with
nobody.
Let me ask.
The devotees you're talking about are Kanista Adhikari. You know, Kanista, Madhyam, Uttama. Prabhupada is an Uttama Adhikari. That is transcendentally situated in Krishna's personal presence, in interchange of love, exchanges of love with Krishna, Prabhupada. Madhyam Adhikari is shedding the material mentality to try to get the transcendental mentality of being able to associate with Krishna in Krishna Loka. In the Kanista Adhikari, which is where we all are, it's like a swamp. We're all in it together, and nobody's following anything. Some people follow more than others, but we can become envious. Oh, he's chanting 50 rounds and I'm only chanting 16 rounds. Yeah. That's material mentality, envy.
Yeah. So because that's so that's the thing. Because what you're saying, envy or you know, falling down into this trap of Maya. So Prabhupada said that if you are doing 16 rounds daily, you do Mangalarti on the time, wake up before 4 and do Mangalarti, do Darshanarti, take Prasad and Kirtan lecture, and then evening Arti. So Prabhupada assured that you will not fall down if you rigidly follow this program. So that's what I'm asking, that that devotee, he was doing so much service for a so long time, but then eventually he fell victim of Maya. So I'm looking at the practical aspect, because this is what has been preached to me all the time, and this is what I have practically experienced, that if I am following this schedule rigidly, there is no point in my mind. It gives me so much strength in my mind that my mind is not agitated by any kind of, you know, any out
so
of the, you know.
So you're making.
So that's what I want to. So it's like, you know, because as in, like, as a person starts to become, you know, like 10, 15, 20 years after, you know, in devotional service, so he starts to think, you know, let me, you know, skip Mangala, or let me, you know, skip the Darshanarti, let me skip the lecture, or, you know, like that, you know. So I'm already doing it for so long. So then Prabhupada, in a lot of his lectures also, he emphasized that don't stop doing that, otherwise you will fall victim of Maya. because as you become a president, so you're thinking, I have got such an important position now, I have to take care of a lot of things, so let me skip all these things. So is that,
well, whether
because
you
that
skip
is
or you don't, you can do all of that stuff rigidly, but if in your heart you're trying to dominate over others, you say, I'm guru and he's not, I'm guru and he must obey me, you have to obey me because I'm guru, this means ISKCON guru, then that is Maya. You see, in the Nectar, I was going to mention, in the Nectar of Devotion, there's a section where Prabhupada says, people that have become disciples and close to the spiritual master, Paramahansa, spiritual master like Prabhupada, get caught up in the moon-like rays of the pure devotee. When they get caught up in the moon-like rays, they become so absorbed that they're feeling associative bliss. They're not, the bliss is not coming from them, it's coming from the pure devotee. But they are associated with pure devotee, and being conditioned souls, they think, I feel great. I feel so blissful. I feel so spiritual. But in fact, in their heart, they're still an ordinary person who is very lucky to have the association of a pure devotee. Okay, so what happens is the minute that person thinks that they are the source, it's right there in the Nectar of Devotion, that the minute that person thinks that they are the source of that blissful experience, then that is when they've fallen down. And that just takes time before they crash land. The minute they think, oh, I've associated with, when these ISKCON so-called gurus, the so-called Ritiks, they're really representative acharyas, Prabhupada called them, Tamal called them Ritiks, and made it stick. So we're all indebted to Tamal, aren't we? So when they came up there and they became so-called regular gurus, you should have seen them. They would sit on their seats. They were glowing. They were completely radiant. They looked like a moon. That's how beautiful they were. How everything they said seemed transcendental. Why? Because they had been associating with Prabhupada and they were trapped in his moon-like rays. And then they committed the offense of thinking those rays were now theirs. So then when Prabhupada was gone, thanks to their poisoning him, they came out as regular gurus and were very convincing for at least 6 months or a year. And after that, they began to lose their Shakti and they became more and more authoritarian and short-tempered and mean. And then they became what we know them to be today, complete hypocrites.
So,
but you get the point. If you pick up the Nectar of Devotion and read it, you'll see those points being elucidated there.
And I want to just add to this, Prabhu. Tulsi Prabhu, what Naranaran Prabhu has also told in past sessions is that Krishna is going to give you all the capacity to fulfill whatever your wish is. But he also gives you the freedom to take the right decisions. So now all these people who chanted the 16 rounds and then ended up doing whatever they did, falling under the
actually
spell
they
of
left
Maya.
That's yeah.
See, whether they leave it, they follow it. I'm only saying at every point in time, you have the freedom to take a decision. For example, today you could have been doing something else. Instead, you chose to be in this group. So, likewise, it is the decision that you take personally which will finally have its effect. So, if
so
in
that's
the
the thing.
face of
That is
Maya,
And
after realizing they wanted to proceed with what they wanted to do, that is what they intended to do, and equally they are going to face the consequences. Not that it's just going to be waved off because they did the 16 rounds prior to it. So if it is
that's
for
what
your personal
our
progress,
business is,
that is what
our business is not to build, we should not build an ego structure around our devotional service. And that inevitably happens in a temple because everybody has a different role to play, and they start enforcing things on each other. And you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. You have to say, yes, Prabhu, yes, Prabhu. But if you become angry or resentful, then it's going to spoil what you're doing. Is that right, Shreya Prabhu?
Yeah. So,
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, yeah,
Uh,
that is what actually the thing is. Um, actually, the thing is that is what it is. That if a person has made his choice that he wants to deviate, he wants to deviate from Krishna.
Oh, no, the people
So
don't really
first of
make
all,
a choice like
I mean,
that. They just allow themselves to be tempted into doing that.
So
They
to
don't,
further
so
that part,
so that
you
is
know,
the
so
that
Tulsi Prabhu, I think
that
you're
is
trying to
the
say when
yeah,
you fall under the spell of Maya and you're put to
you
temptation,
leave.
how
That is
do
the thing.
you?
When you
Huh,
yes, so that is the
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you
practical.
how that is.
So that is the practical, as Prabhupada has said. Because I'm not saying according to my mind. Prabhupada has said that if a person starts deviating from 16 rounds, minimum 16 rounds, and he's deviating from Mangala Aarti, he's deviating from reading his books, he's deviating from listening to his lectures, that means that he is choosing to go back into Maya. That is the standard, practical standard.
oh,
That as in
that,
there was a
that is not completely true, because I can explain that. Prabhupada describes the beginning of being a devotee in the temple, of his temple, the Kanista Adhikari experience, is a clearing stage. Just chanting all your rounds doesn't make you perfect. Being in a clearing stage means you're going to have so many imperfections. Even when you're chanting rounds, you can be thinking about something else. You can, no matter what you do, it's going to be imperfect unless you reach the perfectional level.
Yeah. So
right?
then Prabhupada also says that if you are in his lecture, he says that if you are chanting 16 rounds somehow, if you are going through 16 rounds somehow, Krishna will save you. This is what Prabhupada says clearly in his lecture. He says,
Krishna came in
anyhow,
front
somehow
of
or other.
Duryodhana as well, Prabhu. At least here it is Srila Prabhupada who is telling you about the 16 rounds. During Duryodhana's times, Krishna himself said, I am the Lord. He showed the Vishwarupa. He told him whatever is going to be the consequences, he showed it to him. Beyond and after that, Duryodhana decided to continue with the war. So I'm only trying to say when people fall under the spell of Maya, it's just like how we tell our children, we tell them don't touch fire because you're going to burn your hand. But still,
So
if
what is
somebody
the
out of temptation will still want to touch the fire, they will try to go near it. But when they feel the heat, they stop.
So
So
they
that
have
heat
those. So
may be
that is
in
the
different
So that is
intensities.
the. So how do you come to know now this child is going towards the fire? You come to know when you see that the child is leaving your protection. You have said just stay here, don't go close to that. So now you see that
So that
child is
means your
moving away
test is
from
of
you.
the next
The
level.
child may
As a
sometimes
beginner,
go when you're not watching. When you're not watching, the
as a
child may go to
beginner,
the fire.
Tulsi Prabhu, as a beginner, you might tell somebody not to do something and they will believe you because they're in the beginning stage. But once you've crossed the first level, you tend to play the game from the second level. And as we keep increasing our, intensity towards, okay. So as we keep moving to next levels, it becomes a tendency in the human nature to try and push themselves. So when you get a little more into the spell of Maya, a little more into the spell of Maya, your test is even more higher. And that is when you still need to stand unwavered. For example, if at all you come to a
Prabhu got logged off.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think it's late for him. I think it was 10:30
Will
already
you
for him.
call
I think it's
him,
around.
Prabhu, Banu Prabhu, just to check what happened?
Okay.
I don't
think
know.
we should end the
do you-
session soon also. It's late for people
Yeah.
in America.
Yeah.
Tulsipati Prabhu, you can come early.
It's late for them, I think.
Would
Yeah.
you like
Possible for you.
Yeah.
read a
So,
letter from Srila Prabhupada about this?
yeah,
Do we have
Matthew Prabhu,
Matthew
you're
Prabhu?
saying something? Yeah.
Matthew Prabhu, please repeat it. We couldn't hear you because there were all of them talking. So.
There's a letter from Srila Prabhupada that he writes about this.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see that.
All right. I don't. I can just read it.
Okay.
Okay.
No problem.
My dear Rai Ram, please accept my blessings. I am in due receipt of your letters dated 24 and 25th October, respectively. I may say that in reply to your letter of October 24th, you may go to England around the 1st of December or whenever you find it convenient. There is no hurrying the attempt. In the meantime, go on improving the condition of back to Godhead, which you are doing very nicely with the cooperation of your very respectable God brothers. Regarding Kirtan Ananda, I cannot allow him to become Keith again. He is my spiritual son, and I shall never allow him to fall down. When I return, I shall drag him forcibly and make all right again. Anyone who has once come to me has become my beloved son. Temporarily, one may display some Mayak affliction, but that cannot prolong. I thank Lord Krishna for Satyavrata and Wumpati, and I hope sincerely that Kirtanananda will also come back again with renewed energy. I am glad that Hayagriva has returned the manuscript of Gita, and I understand that Brahmananda's letter that they are being made ready by professional typists. From Madhusudan's letter, it is understood that Macmillan has agreed for paperback printing. Anyway, get it ready and print it immediately anywhere you like without delay. So, I mean, well, there's more to his letter. That was
so
the
obviously, that is you're absolutely right, Prabhuji, that Prabhupada is not going to leave any of his disciples behind, no matter how long it takes. But then we also need to make sure that we do not suffer, because he will wait for us forever. But if I decide that I'm going to suffer more, so then so at least we should make sure that he doesn't have to take so much pain for us. That I just go back.
Yes, that's
what
the
is it?
standard
He's going to. Yeah. Okay.
No, you need to go through the three stages:
Prabhupada
Kanishta,
established
Madhyama, and
point.
Uttamadhikari before you go back to Godhead.
So what happens if you commit such a great offense that you do not become a devotee again for 1,000 lifetimes? You commit an offense, you don't become a devotee for 1,000 lifetimes. You have to suffer like anything. But at the end of that time, you'll become a devotee again. Because once you've heard Lord Chaitanya's sound vibration through the mouth of Srila Prabhupada, as it is, you will go back to Godhead, even though it may take a lot of time.
Yeah, that is true. But why? That's the thing. Why suffer for 1,000 lifetimes? I mean, because if we have got opportunities, so why not just straight away go without any committing any offenses? So that is what actually
everyone is committed. Prabhu, let's not kid ourselves. Everyone is committing huge offenses.
There's no suffering if you practice the fruit of practicing Krishna consciousness rightly is that you're happy and enthusiastic with it. That is it shows that is the result of your devotional service. If you're doing it correctly.
What I think is nice and what Krishna thinks is nice are not the same thing. So in my material mentality, I think, I'm chanting my rounds of doing everything perfectly. I go to class. I must be pleasing Krishna. But the thing is, Krishna is only pleased by complete perfection. We're not perfect. So the Kanishta Adhikari, that means everybody in ISKCON, is to some degree or another advancing, and to some degree or other is slugging around not advancing. But nonetheless, all in all, he is advancing. Even if it takes 10,000 births, he's advancing. You're not ever going to go completely backwards. Maybe in one lifetime it'll look like that. But if you go to hell right now, if you went to hell and you were tortured in hell, now, inside of you, you still remember serving Krishna.
But I mean, if you have taken Krishna's
that will
name,
pull you out of. Eventually, the hell will burn off. It's not eternal. Hell will burn itself off of you, and you'll come out purified.
If we are
by the
wearing
hellish experience.
tilak, we are wearing. If we are wearing tilak, we are wearing tulsi mala, kanti mala. The Yamrajas, Yamadutas cannot touch us. So how can we go? We cannot be going to hell. Going to hell is not an
You don't think the Tamal is going to hell?
He would be.
How about Nanda?
Yeah, probably is that true? Yeah, actually, probably is that true that
Sure,
there was an accident as
hell.
soon as we, as soon as
Bhavananda poisoning Prabhupada. If he goes, I want to write an essay. I've written part of it of Bhavananda in hell. He goes to hell, and there he is with the other people in hell in horrible flames, being tortured and miserable and screaming and howling. And he does howling and screaming and everything because he has done that. It's guru side. He murdered his own guru, spirit devotee. It's like someone killing Jesus. Good God, what a monster. And so he's there screaming his head off in hell. But at some point, he remembers in the middle of the screaming, but before, when I was in pain, I would chant, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So he begins to scream, Hare Krishna. Then all the other people in hell start screaming at Bhavananda, saying, shut up, stop that Krishna stuff. We're howling and let us howl. Don't you try to interfere with us. And then Bhavananda says, but you don't understand. You do not understand. If you chant howl Hare Krishna, we'll get out of here. Oh, and we'll never get out of here. Just chant Hare Krishna. I will show you we'll get out of here. So after some period of time, there's Bhavananda coming out of hell with his hair in flames, and they're all followed behind by thousands of hellish people with their hair in flames, chanting Hare Krishna in a big hellish Sankirtan party coming out to take birth as devotees.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So don't worry too much about your next birth. If you're going to hell, you're well armed. If you went to hell, I'm not saying you're going to hell, but if you went to hell, the worst thing, worst material thing, if you went to hell and you were being tortured, wouldn't you start crying out the name of Krishna? You would.
Right. So next,
Prabhu, I'm talking to Tulsi. Tulsi Prabhu, wouldn't you cry out the name of Krishna if you were in hell?
I don't know, Prabhuji.
You would?
Well, if you don't cry out the name of Krishna, then you weren't paying attention in class in your temple.
Maybe I will. I don't know. I mean, in that situation, how can I know what will I do in that situation? But I certainly don't know.
Because Krishna is eternally in your heart, and you chanted Hare Krishna, right?
Yeah.
Yes. You're not saying that you never chanted Hare Krishna, are you?
No, I'm chanting actually.
Okay, so you go to hell, won't you chant?
Yes, there also. Hell or heaven,
wherever. What other shelter would you, if you didn't chant in hell, what is your alternative in hell?
No other alternative. Only.
So you would chant, right?
Yeah, only this chanting is the only alternative, because as in like there are many times there are situations in human life only we start to think that hell is even better than this. So in that situation, Harinam takes us out of that misery. So what to speak of hellish misery? So if anybody chants anywhere, so there is no question of any misery.
So if you're in that hellish regime and you start chanting, don't you think it would all begin to make sense, and you begin to understand what you did in order to go to hell?
Yeah.
Okay, so that answers your question about devotees chanting or not chanting, reading, not reading in the temple, in the ISKCON temple. It doesn't matter. Why? Because it's voluntary. If they want to chant, they can chant. If they want to read, they can read. If they want to do japa, they can do japa. They can do whatever they want. The point of free will is not you have to do something, it's that you want to do it. If they don't, if they're in a temple and they don't want to be there, well, so much power to them because they're doing something that they know is going to do well for them in the end, and they hate doing it. Well, that's very nice austerity, isn't it? I hate being in the temple. I hate getting up early. I hate taking prasadam. I hate the whole thing, but I'm doing it. So that's a very great vow, isn't it? To vow to do something that you hate, even because you know you're going to become delivered. Are you going through something, Prabhu? You look as though you're in agony.
I'm speaking to someone.
No, actually, I was talking with somebody. There was some. I was calling some. There was some plum.
So if you look like you were in agony, it was a really bad conversation. Huh?
I was trying to make him understand what to do. So actually, talking to Karmis is always an agony. Actually, they do not understand.
You can tell them, if you want to be really Zen about it, a Zen master, you can say, you don't have to do anything. Do what you feel like doing. Do whatever you want to do. But when it comes down to it, and the bullet is, the gun is in your head, if you don't chant Hare Krishna, doing what you wanted to do is going to end in you taking a different body. And not a very good one either. It doesn't matter. You see, it doesn't matter if you go to the temple. It doesn't matter if you chant Hare Krishna. It doesn't matter. You do it if you want to do it. And if somebody
Krishna
else does
says,
it wrong,
surrender unto me. He doesn't force.
Criticize
You have to
somebody else
surrender.
for doing it wrong. Just consider that if someone does it badly, then you do it rightly. You don't have to reject their bad example. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so
the knowledge to get out of this material existence, the misery is given, but we also have the free will whether we want, we can get out, we choose, but it's a choice to get out of it or not.
Exactly, Vanu. Perfect. Perfect Siddhanta. We don't have to do anything.
If I just keep on in my mind
to do
thinking,
it.
Yeah, so as in if I just keep on thinking that I want to get out, that is not the way I can get out. I need to have a practical method. Otherwise, it's just that thinking in our mind is not going to help me.
No, you only have to remember the Maha Mantra,
practical
chant Prabhupada Kirtan.
So that's,
you have to chant Prabhupada Kirtan in the mind.
Yeah, so that is what I'm saying. Continuously chanting the holy name. That is the thing.
Remembrance of the holy name.
What prisoner doesn't want to get out of jail? They're screaming.
So, but if he
only, get out of jail.
So probably if he is only, in his mind he's thinking, oh, I want to get out, but to get out he has to behave properly. Only then he will get out. Otherwise, if he is only thinking in his mind and he's still, continue his, previous activities, then how can he get out? So eventually he has to forego the previous activities.
Exactly.
We have some new
he doesn't do it because, but he can't do it because he has to. He should do it because he chooses to. It's his choice. Just like it was our choice to come to the material world. Now, without our choice, we're still part and parcel of Krishna. Spirit soul is not spirit soul by choice. We didn't choose to be eternal spirit soul. We have
a new devotee, Karishma Prabhu, Karishma Mataji, Prabhu. Can you introduce yourself? We have a new devotee. Karishma Prabhu.
Is Shreya still on board, or he left?
She's gone.
Shreya's gone. Karishma Prabhu, can you
Yeah.
introduce yourself? Can you introduce yourself? Anyway,
Who?
continue. Someone new came, a new devotee,
There's some,
Karishma.
there's some new devotee. Yeah, you do. Does he have a
Continue,
video?
I don't
No.
think then he's probably not shy, maybe. Continue your discussion.
There's somebody named Karishma.
Yeah.
No picture.
Karishma.
Here's Banu. And
I see
here,
Matthew.
So Matthew Prabhu, you have any question?
We're all good.
Yeah, I could carry this on tomorrow.
Okay. So shall we? So have we come to an end? Shall we end the session for today, Prabhu?
is it ready?
Yeah.
Who's left online? Did Rupa leave?
I don't know.
Rupa
People are
left.
joining. See people waiting and enter the waiting room. It seems.
It's daytime in India.
Yeah, it's
Someone are
Because
joining from somewhere.
It's very late
People
for
are
Rupa.
joining.
She likes to go to sleep early.
See
Is
people
Rupa
are
still there?
What
Is
time is
Shreya
it in
still
India?
there?
stairs left and three people
It's
are
12.
waiting to join. Shall I add
Exactly
them?
12
New
it is.
devotees.
At
New
that point of
devotees are waiting to join.
Okay, thank you all. I look forward to the tomorrow evening's Istagosthi.
Istagosthi.
To go.
Okay, then.
Remember, in
Hare Krishna.
Istagosthi, you can't bring your body or your material thinking. You can only bring yourself as Jiva.
Hare
Just
Krishna.
be that,
Hare
be
Krishna.
that
Hare Krishna.
austere that you don't bring along a bunch of pus, blood, stool, and urine called the material body.
It's not
Just
easy.
bring the Jiva. Oh no, it's easy. It's easier. Just put down the body, leave it alone, don't identify with it, and realize that consciousness is coming from the soul, not the body. So the more you get the grip of being the soul, the more you're not going to be dragged into the body by the mind.
As Srila Prabhupada says, it's the descending process. The ascending process just doesn't work. Of our
Precisely.
yeah.
We have to
Who said that?
descend.
Is that Matthew?
Yeah, I said that.
We have to descend.
The way people by their names, by their sounds.
Well, it's he did Srila Prabhupada describes that just like basically he's condemning mental speculation as
Exactly.
means of attaining Krishna consciousness.
If you want to mentally speculate, you can get a large, big, fat prize from the Nobel Prize people if you speculate in such a way that the other speculators said, my God, why didn't I speculate like that? But in the end, they don't know anything, do they? They have no idea. Right?
Hare Krishna.
Aye.
Hare Krishna.
You
So
speak
we
the
conclude
truth.
today's
Maharaj.
session.
You're in charge. Did you say Shreya
I think we should
also left?
conclude today's session.
Haribol.
You're the Ramachandra
Yeah,
is
Prabhu.
the chairman, but you're the
Navachandra Prabhu has
vice
left and
chairman.
I'm the-
I agree.
You're the associate chairman, so
I
you can
agree.
determine when we end the session.
Thank you for the
I think-
association.
I
Hare
agree.
Okay,
Hare
Haribol.
Hare Krishna. All glories to
Hare
Srila
Krishna,
Prabhupada.
Prabhuji.
We can be disconnected at this point.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.